Public service reminder. You are not your job. You are not how much money you have in the bank. You are not the car you drive. You are not the contents of your wallet. You are not your freaking khakis. Buckle up and prepare for more truth bombs. And as usual, viewers' discretion is advised. Is that working? There we go. 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 Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is slightly my fault. More my fault than yours for sure. Not 1,000% my fault, but like a solid 97% my fault. I'm gonna accept like 97% responsibility. There's like 2.5, probably 97% plus. Okay, so where was I? You definitely hear me now. Oh yeah, okay, fine. All right. Let me explain. I didn't stream last night. And the reason I didn't stream was because I was having computer issues. Specifically, my computer was not even turning on. And I'm like, what the heck is happening here? What is happening? And I was like, I wasn't too freaked out about it because I was like, even if I leave my computer on like all the time, which I know is exactly what you're supposed to do. Like that way, you know, it doesn't get like all riled by being shut down and being turned back up. It's like, no, just leave it on 24/7. That's basically the way I've been rolling with this show for like the last year. My computer's never been off unless like something gets unplugged. Okay, so now if you ever had to like stream, you would know there's a lot of cords. There's a lot of wiring. You got your camera, and the camera has to have 2 cords because it has to be continually powered into like plugged in, and then it's got to be connected to your computer. You obviously have to have your monitor, 2 monitors hooked up into your hard drive. You have to have your hard drive with its power. You need to have your microphone and your headset and all these different wires flying everywhere and a lot of different things plugging in that need juice, right? So you got to basically so you know how you have the extension thing? What's what they call it? The thing that the power surge protector, which has the multiple like different ports that you plug in. So I have one power surge thing plugged into another because I don't have enough ports. You know, one of them is not going to be nearly enough to handle like my cool little eerie light. Ooh. Yeah, so it'll never work. It's never going to work unless like I have like a power surge thing plugged into like a power surge thing here. Okay, this is my base. So now, one way that I know if my computer, if there's like a wiring issue, is that this light here will go off because like this is plugged into the same thing. And like if all of a sudden it's just like, you know, I'm like, oh man. So then I know, right? Okay, fine. Anyway, because it's always on. It's always on. All right. Here's what I'm getting at. The light was on and my computer was off and not charging. And I'm like, that ain't supposed to be. What up with that? That's not supposed to be. And I tried turning my computer on last night and it wasn't going on. And I was like, I'm tired. I'm not in the mood to try fixing this whole thing. I don't want to deal with this whole thing. I'm not in the mood. I'm just like not in the mood. My whole family was around. I was just like, I'm just so not in the mood for this. I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out tomorrow. Put up a message on Locals telling everyone, hey, look, computer issues. Boom, that's it. Like 5 minutes after I sent that message out, what I realized was, I was like, I wonder if my second power surge that's plugged into the first power surge, that is off. And I look at it, check it out, and sure enough, it was off. And I was like, how the heck is this off? Why is this off? Why? It's under my table here. Like someone has to like crawl under the table, hit that switch off, and then like what? And I'm just like, why? How did that get off? It makes no sense at all. Like 0 sense, no sense whatsoever. Because it's like it's a nuisance to try reaching it. Why would someone do that? Well, but it was off. And I turned it back on, and the next thing I know, my computer, everything's fine. I wasn't too freaked out. Even my computer got fried because I have a second computer for doing this same thing because I had, that's a really old story going back to when I first started streaming. But I have a second computer. So I was like, all right, worst case scenario, I'll be able to just use the other computer and I'll be fine.
but I just didn't want to deal with that whole mess. Sure enough, this computer is totally fine. But the power was off. And I was like, why would that be? I was like, I can't even imagine how that happened. I can't even imagine. Maybe someone bumped into it by accident, but it's really under the table. Like, it's not an easy thing to happen. And what I realized happened was this. I was laying in bed, like scrolling through. I was like, what do I want to cover tonight? I'm like scrolling through. My grandson comes in, who's 2.5 years old. So he calls me Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
But he can't say Big Daddy, so he calls me Big Daddy. But so he comes in, he's like, Big Daddy, Big Daddy. And I'm like, hey, how are you, Moshe? And I'm like, I give him like a nice little wave. And he comes over, walks right under my table and flips that switch off. I'm like, you little stinker. And then he's turning it on, off, because there's a little light that goes on. He's so proud of himself that he knows how to flip this switch on and off. He's 2.5. So yeah, he was very, very excited by the opportunity to turn that. So apparently at some point within the last, I don't know, sometime, I don't know, over Shabbos or something, he must have flipped that thing off. And yeah, so there you go. So I'm like, I can just picture I'm gonna be like streaming on Nick's thing, and the next thing all of a sudden it's like you'll just be like watching me, like all of a sudden everything, and you guys will be like, "What happened? What happened? What happened?" And I'll just be like, my 2-year-old grandson came in here. So anyway, I was telling you how when I was muted. Oh, so then when everything got turned back on, apparently my audio. I was explaining why this was not my fault. The thing. Apparently, StreamYard automatically reset to a brand new audio settings type thing, or its default thing, or whatever, so that when I came on here tonight, I didn't realize that my audio settings had adjusted away from this mic here into like my default settings, and that's why, thankfully, I was able to see it. And I thank each and every one of you who sent me a reminder about what a boomer I was and that I was talking to you guys while being completely muted. So speaking of which, I'm going to catch up in Super Chats, and then we're going to start watching the timeline. What I was explaining also during that 4 minutes, which no one heard except for Lady Logic here, was that I've become consumed with this whole Murdaugh. It's Murdaugh. State's theory is Alec is the trigger man for both. Absolutely 0% on Paul. Maggie, a higher possibility, but still not beyond a reasonable doubt. Yeah. Well, we're going to go through their timeline. And those of you, and I feel like this, probably most of you are in the same camp I am with respect to saying he's not been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not even going to bother to pull on that because I feel like it's going to be at least 85% of you are going to say not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Those of you who are in the camp that say he did it, or certainly those of you who say they have established guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, ask yourself this, just one question. Ask one question to yourself, and that is this. If he killed them, what color shirt was he wearing when he did it? Just what color shirt was he wearing? I just want to know that. What color shirt was he wearing? Because the state seems convinced he was wearing this white t-shirt. Which to me makes no sense at all. I don't know how they even came forward with that theory. If you want to tell me that he killed them and then changed his clothing, okay, fine. If you want to sell it, you know what you should say. No, this guy knew he was going to kill them, went down to the dog kennels there, and brought a change of clothing with him. Nothing stopped him from doing that. Brought a change of clothing with him, shot them, hosed himself off, and changed clothing. Right there at the kennel. Boom. End the story. Put everything in a neat little bag, threw it in the back of his car, and drove off to his mother. Why he did it? I don't know. I can't tell you that. To me, if you're trying to sell the idea that he's the one who did it, that's the way you do it. I've never heard anyone speculate that. Not a single person. They're all everyone who's been speculating about it, it's like, no, and then he came back, and then he washed, and he changed, and we couldn't find the clothing here. It's very easy. The dude is like half a mile from his own house when he gets to the kennel. Presumably, he knows he's going to kill them before he walks out to the kennel for whatever reason, or he's going to kill at least one of them. He doesn't want to have their DNA all over him. He's going to have a risk of having some of their DNA on him. Why not just bring a change of clothing with you to the murder scene, throw it in a bag in the corner of the kennel or by some tree, 50 yards from the kennel. Just leave it there, go out there, and just there you go. There you go. That's the easiest way to do it. I've never heard anyone suggest this even. And it's the most logical way to do it. I don't know. Instead, everyone's like, then he's got to run back and change clothing and what. It's like, if you plan on doing it, that's how you do it. I've never heard anyone, the biggest, the murder podcast. He definitely did it, and now we have the proof. And Jim Griffith is evil. Harpoolian is crooked, and they're all in bed, and they're all corrupt, and they're all these terrible, terrible human beings. They never even speculated about it going down that way. How did I lose my lens here? I lost my lens. That's not good. That's so not good. Anyway, let me get to the super chats. Look at this. Look at this. That's so not good. You don't have to own 2 sets of the same clothing. I listened to like 1.5 hour of that podcast, like a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just like, and they hate the lawyers. They hate the lawyers as much as they hate Alex. They're like, oh yeah, Jim Griffin is like the heart of evil. It's all his fault. He once called me fat. Made a misogynist comment about me. He's a terrible human being. Clearly, that means Alex killed him. It's kind of funny. So anyway, to me, I'm at a point where I'm like, so I don't know if I read this out loud. State's theory is Alex is a trigger man for both, absolutely 0% on Paul and Maggie, a higher probability, but not beyond a reasonable doubt. I agree with you. Boomer, unmute yourself. LOL. Muted. No sound, Joe. You're muted. This was the best opening monologue you've ever done, and it was muted the whole time. Love you, Joe. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. Muted. Shame. That's what you all should do. The next time I'm like, come out here muted, you just point at your screen and just go, shame, 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 shame. I'll hear the echoing from around the country. That was the most boomer of boomer intros I've ever seen, Joe. Great as always. Thank you. This super chat's for the world's smallest violin for you. That's great. Boomer. I think it's supposed to say boomer. Poor Joe, LOL. Yeah. Kind of pathetic. Not going to kid you. All right. Anyway, so shame. There you go. Anyway, bottom line is this. I want to watch the timeline, because I want to see, since I can't even figure out, it seems as if the state is convinced that he's wearing the white shirt. I mean, they're doing all these cuttings and all that. He's wearing the white shirt the moment he kills him. That definitely seems to be where they're at, like mentally. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand why it is that they seem so in love with that shirt as being like the clothing of choice at the moment of killing. Let's assume that they really believe their own stink as to like that this case is legit and that he really did it and they were going to prove it and whatever. It's like they must have asked themselves, okay, what shirt was he wearing and why was it not covered in blood? I mean, let's assume they're not stupid. So they have to realize the same thing anyone with half a brain. If you look, I'm sorry. Look, I saw Pulp Fiction. Anyone who saw that movie, you see someone's head when the head gets when you take a shot to the head, there's blood everywhere. This guy killed 2 people, and one of them we know from the state's ballistics people that he was like basically on the ground with Paul over him, shooting straight up into the shot going through his head into the ceiling. I mean, he had to be drenched in blood. He had to look like Carrie. like some horror movie. This was a horrific scene. And you're sitting here thinking that maybe he was wearing that white t-shirt? I mean, does anyone seriously really believe that he was wearing that shirt? Even if he was wearing that shirt, don't you think he would have changed out of it? I mean, that's what I'm saying, because of so much blood. Why would anyone think he's still wearing the shirt at that time? If he wore that shirt to his mother's house and kept a coat on the whole time, he would have taken that shirt off before the police arrived. I mean, they're sitting here saying, and they're even saying themselves, it smells like fresh laundry. Oh, smell that shirt. It smells so lemony, fresh. Ooh, fresh. I wonder if she uses Downy. Must be this Bounty air freshener. It's like they're all sitting here, which I don't even believe that at all. I don't know who the heck believes that. That guy was like dripping sweat. It was like a disgusting ball of like human DNA that was being emitted from him in tears and sweat. And you're telling me that thing still smelled like Downy Fresh. If you think it smelled Downy Fresh, why? And you know whoever shot him from underneath him must have been drenched in blood. Why are you taking 27 strips and just test this part for blood, test this part for? Why would you be doing that? Especially when if you find little wisps of blood, you know that it's very likely that the jury's going to say, well, that's consistent with when he said he went over and checked on the bodies. So, like, what is the upside? I mean, if you find a little bit of blood, there's no up. It's like it's irrational to think he was wearing it at the time. And if you do find any blood, you don't know if that blood came at the moment of shooting or came when he's inspecting the bodies. The whole theory makes no sense. I'm asking myself, how stupid is SLED? How stupid is Creighton Waters? And I don't think they're stupid people. I just don't understand. It's so baffling to me. So that's why I really want to watch this timeline and have them start to piece this together to me as to what they're going to be giving us in their closing arguments. I assume they're going to give us some sort of narrative, paint a little picture there, maybe get like some little, I don't know, cartoon of like Alex Murdaugh, like moment by moment and little flames and reenactments. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something good has to happen, right? Something good has to happen at some point. Something good has to happen. Anyhow, that's my theory. Tomorrow's Monday, so there's no trial. Tomorrow's President's Day. Happy President's Day. Woohoo! All the great You see, what I don't like about President's Day, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here for a moment, and then we're going to get right into this video, right into the timeline expert testimony. So we had, when I was a youngin', back in the day, I was a youngin', believe it or not. It's true. It's true. Color had not been invented yet. Everything was gray. It was like this weird sort of world. Like the clouds were like they had this song, there'll be gray skies forever. It was a crazy time. And I remember when we invented dirt. Before that, there was just sort of murkiness everywhere. At a certain point, we invented dirt. Years later, we invented color. Then Washington came along, then Lincoln. At some point, someone said, hey, we should honor their birthdays, which both happened to fall out in February. And that was fine. That was fine. Everyone was fine. They're like, it's winter. These days stink. They're terrible days. They're short days. It's cold. It's uncomfortable. Only people in the South or in California have any tolerance for this time of year. It's just nasty out. It's dark. It's dingy. Everyone's miserable. Everyone's in a bad mood. You basically have a Christmas vacation holiday thing where people try to rouse themselves up with some cheer and some eggnog for a couple of weeks. But outside of that, it's just awful. And people are miserable. So they said, you know what? Having 2 days for President's Day that's cool. Like, we'll have Washington's birthday, we'll have Lincoln's birthday. And everyone's going to be happy. Because they get a day off from work. You basically go sledding with the kids. You sleep in for a weekend, maybe a little extra drinking on the weekend. Everyone was totally happy. Then what happened was Martin Luther King. His birthday at first was celebrated on a state-by-state basis, and that's just like he developed into like a national type of thing. Now, his birthday happens to fall out at the end of January. So now You end up getting end of January day off on Monday, which they're always going to set that up for a Monday also. Let's face it. I mean, no one wants to celebrate someone's birthday on a Wednesday. So they're going to set that up for a Monday. And then a week later, you're going to have like Lincoln's birthday. And then 2 weeks after that, Washington, or vice versa. Who can remember which one came first on the calendar? But the point being, now we got 3 birthdays in like a span of like 4 or 5 weeks. And people are like, this is kind of crazy. Like every other week. Like it's kind of crazy. So they say we can't get rid of MLK. So let's just take Washington and Lincoln and merge them into one, and we'll call it President's Day. And I understand that. I get it. It's fine. It's fine. It's just that now President's Day implies this is just a day to celebrate presidents, not that it's Washington or Lincoln. Which Lincoln, as I got older, at the time I didn't appreciate just how kind of below average a president Lincoln was, but that's for another stream. But what I'm saying is that's okay. So like, but now we call it President's Day. That includes like Biden. If you think about it, President's Day, we celebrating President Clinton, GWB. So I say to you all, Happy President Trump Day. Who's to say which president we're celebrating? Who's to say? Happy President Trump Day. Yeah. Gosh. Happy President Trump Day. All right. I just love a bunch of people coming up with a massive conjecture. And thank you, Mike, for your generous super chat. I just love a bunch of people coming up with a massive conjecture to justify why they know he's guilty. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what the state proved, and that was lacking. Happy President Mike the Dad Crosby Day. All right. Let's get. I jumped to like I jumped to the timeline guy. I'm not watching 4 hours of timeline guy. I'm not watching that. I can't. I won't. You can't make me. You can't make me watch 4 hours of timeline guy. So I started from the part that I had to leave Nick's stream on Friday because I was prepping for the party. So that's what we're gonna do right here and now. And it's basically around like 8 p.m., which this is the juicy part, right? I mean, there's text messaging and happening. We're almost at 8 p.m. here on the timeline. So we're not going through the whole intro. What the guy's name is, I don't even know. I don't care. It's the state's expert witness. And he's basically using phone and GPS and all this other stuff and car mobile times and General Motors records to basically track where the 3 central figures are. 3 central figures obviously being Alex, Paul, and Maggie. Where are they and their phones and what's happening with their phones so we can sort of start painting a picture as to exactly what was happening on June 7, 2021. During the last moments of the lives of Alex and of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. And here we go.
All the way to 8:40 p.m.
All right, we see 2 cell towers there and then some arcs. Where do those arcs intersect?
The arcs intersect.
So they use in this testimony, these are maps. This is a map of the region, and those cell phone towers are located around Moselle, the Murdaugh estate, and basically showing this. And I had to tell you something that's an amazing thing. I got into a little bit of a comment debate with one of my viewers who was telling me I was crazy for claiming that Special Agent Owen committed perjury to the grand jury, which he clearly did. I don't even know why I invested as much time as I did, but he clearly committed perjury. And saying, why is no one else making a big deal about this? So I actually went to watch Emily Baker talk about like her screening of that testimony of the cross-examination of Special Agent Owen. And I thought about watching it with you guys here. Maybe we will. We'll see how long I spend watching this guy. But and I'm talking about the cross-examination, that brilliant cross-examination by Jim Griffin of Special Agent Owen that happened a day earlier, 2 days earlier, Wednesday or Thursday. I think Thursday. So one of the things that came out during that cross-examination, a really fascinating thing, which very much helps the state, is that when they did a search for all cell phones pinging outside of the first responders, meaning the police and whomever showing up there after 10 p.m., no one else's phone pinged the whole night, meaning no one else was there with a phone on, aside from Alex, Paul, Maggie, and then the police and ambulance or whoever else came after 911 called. So that means that if it wasn't killed, if they weren't killed by Alex, this is highly, highly relevant testimony. You would think the state would have opened with that, made a big thing. It's not just that we know he was there. We have good reason to believe that no one else was there. Now, does that mean for sure no one else was there? No. Let's put it this way. I mean, that would be consistent with a mob hit, because if I was, a henchman for the mob, I assume I would be very carefully directed to make sure that, hey, when you get within 10 miles of the place, we're turning our cell phones off. Because, we otherwise, it's not like it's not like downtown Chicago where phones are pinging all the time. No. I mean, you gotta turn your cell phone off, and that way, otherwise they're gonna know that you were here. People have questions. Why was your phone number over here? Now, I guess if you had a burner phone, you could leave it on, but not if you want to pin it on Alex, you want to turn your cell phone off. My point is that, to me, that would be something that would be a very good point to make to the jury. So it's like they shouldn't think that just someone wandered on there. Look, maybe some hobo who never signed up to get an Obama phone managed to come on there and decide to kill Paul and Maggie. That's possible. But you would think that would be evidence that, which, it's circumstantial evidence. It would not prove beyond a reasonable doubt anything. It doesn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Alex is the one who killed them, but it does. I think that to most people, it's like, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of interesting that no one else was there. Or leads you to believe no one else was there with a phone on, at the very least, which is, helpful to the state. Why would they make a big deal about that? I don't know what's wrong with them. Anyway, so here we have a little map here. I'll make it big for a moment just so you can see that it really is a map, and that I'm not lying to you. See, it's a map. And there you go. It's a map. Okay. And there's the little towers with the little red things there in the direction that they're going. And I don't know. I think that one moves. The one on the upper right on the arc, it rotates. The other one might be fixed toward Moselle. Whatever. Who cares? No one cares. Let's move forward.
Close to the property at Moselle Road.
And if you would, just tell the jury the earliest time that's reflected here and the latest time that's reflected here.
The earliest time reflected is going to be 7:30:05, and the latest time reflected is going to be 7:40:21 p.m. on June 7, 2021.
So Paul's phone is at the Moselle location according to this data.
That is correct.
All right. Bottom of page 9.
So I'll make it a little
we have the
bigger
communications.
so you guys can see what time period we're up to here. We're at 7:30. Make this a little bigger for y'all, because this is information. This is helping us build a timeline. Normally, I keep myself, all the way up like this, because I feel like you're watching this to get my reaction. But here, I think watching along with what the state is presenting to the jury is important for us to lock in our understanding of the state's theory of the whole timeline of everything that happened here. So when they bring up this screen, I'm going to try and pull this up for you so you can read along with what Creighton Waters is showing the jury.
Between Maggie and Marion Proctor.
We do. At 7:31:13 p.m., we show a call for Maggie and Marion at 7:39, which is the length of the call.
7 minutes and 39 seconds.
That's correct.
Does that include connection time as well?
It does.
Do we have any step data on Paul's phone in the time period around this time?
Paul's phone shows between 7:35:10 and 7:41:43. It shows roughly around 171 steps traveled during that time frame.
The steps thing is useless.
7:37 and 7:38. We see
The steps thing, we know, even the expert who came in before said the steps is really very inaccurate. So it's really not very helpful.
any activity on Paul's phone with some of his friends.
Yeah, Paul receives a Snapchat message from Michelle Beck stating, BC, I have short-term memory loss. And that was based off his phone extraction. And then Paul Murdaugh receives an iMessage from Megan Kimbrell stating, Paul.
All right, moving now to page 10. Going to 7:39:55. Can you tell the jury what that data point reflects on your summary timeline?
So from earlier testimony, you've seen this this video. This is just a thumbnail picture, and this is when it's showing it was created in Paul Murdaugh's phone. And we have a little screenshot of the creation time. It's going to show 7:39:55.
So at 7:39, he's wearing this shirt. Okay.
39:55 is when this thumbnail was created in Paul's phone.
And remind the jury what video
That could be an earlier picture. It says it was, I don't know, when they say thumbnail was created, I don't know if that means that the picture could have been sent to him.
that is. I see we got a thumbnail there.
I mean,
What
earlier in the
video is
day.
that?
This is going to be that Snapchat video that was sent to a few friends of the tree. You have Alex Murdaugh on the tree that's leaning over.
So he's not necessarily wearing this shirt at
And again,
7:39.
this is
This is an important point, which I think they'll be happy to confuse the jury about, which is that just because it comes to his phone at 7:39, it doesn't mean he's creating this at 7:39. We know that's Alex Murdaugh in that picture there, wearing the blue shirt. And this was when he was bending the tree or whatever. But we don't know that this happened, as far as I know, that it happened at 7:39. That's my understanding. Let me cover a couple of these things that came from Jonah. Joe, but who has ever been convicted of perjury other than Michael Cohen? Definitely not Fauci, Clapper, Brennan, Holder, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you would think that when Owen was testifying, the state knew everything. And they knew what he's testifying about. So it would be like indicting. It's not just indicting their own. It's indicting the guy for doing what they probably asked him to do. So you would need to have IA and have a federal investigation for this to get anywhere. I know perjury is not lying to Congress, but the joke stands. You're right. Government employees are never charged for lying on their oath. It's their job description. Yeah. And this is perjury. They're both perjury. Both of the act of perjury is lying on their oath. You can lie on their oath to Congress. You can lie on their oath to in a courtroom.
when that video, at least the timestamp, was its creation.
That's correct, based on previous testimony, yes.
All right. 7:41 to 7:48. What, if anything, is reflected on Alex's phone?
We show that 29 steps were traveled on his phone, approximately between 7:41 and 7:48.
All right. And just talked about the Snapchat video. Looking at this map, whose phone is this? And explain these data points to the jury, if you would, please. Or whose phone is this first, if you would, please?
So this is going to be Paul Murdaugh's iPhone, and below it, it's going to be his iPhone location data. So this is not going to be Verizon location. This is going to be location data directly off of his phone.
So this is GPS data that's more specific.
That is correct.
All right. And we see a number of dots up here. What is this area up here generally sort of in the center of this image?
That's going to be the kennel area, and then there's that little house,
The cabin.
the cabin.
All right. And what time periods in that upper box do we see GPS data on Paul's phone up there in the kennel cabin area?
We're seeing between 7:45 and 7:54 is location data for that
Is
area.
754, 756.
7:56, sorry, it's hard to see.
All right. And then We have 2 data points at the bottom.
Mhm.
Is that where it's generally that on the property?
That's going to be what previous testimony talked about, like a dove field. It's going to be past
A
the
dove field.
main house, closer to the Godly Farm
A dove field.
roadside. And that's going to be a
I don't even know what a
data
dove
point
field is.
at,
What's a dove field?
8
Is that the same thing as a dove cote?
8:44
8
seconds.
p.m.?
That's correct, 8 p.m., June 7th.
Do you guys know what a dove field is?
Oh, darn it.
Yes, clearly he was wearing a red shirt.
Down at the bottom
At
of
some
page
point,
10 is there
if he committed these murders,
on
he was wearing a red shirt.
There is, it shows approximately 89 steps traveled during
what time periods?
7:45 p.m. to 7:55.
Moving on to page 11, we have a map. Tell the jury whose phone that is and what that data point is, please.
So this is going to be Maggie Murdaugh's phone. This is going to be Verizon location data. And what we see here is the tower and then the arc of the tower. This is going to be in the Walterboro area. The time is 7:50:03 p.m.
All right, and moving down, we're starting to see some references, and there's a little battery symbol on the side. What does that represent?
So that's going to represent battery life. So right here, this is going to be at 7:52:28. It's going to show Paul Murdaugh's iPhone battery at 7%.
And in your review generally of Paul's cell phone data, was it generally consistent for him to continue to use his phone even if he had a low battery life on it?
That's correct.
And is
Now,
that
the reason the state is doing this, I was thinking about this, they talk a lot about how much he's on the phone, how frequently he's on the phone. The reason they talk about how much he's on the phone, or now try and point out that even though his phone is low, he usually keeps using his phone, is to point out that we don't know when he was shot. We don't know when he was shot. We're trying to figure out what time he was shot. His failure to use his phone is indicative of the fact, the state wants the jury to believe at least, that his failure to use his phone is indicative of the fact that he's dead. That's what they want us to believe. So that's why they keep pounding this over and over again. He's always on his phone. He's always using his phone. He doesn't go like 10 minutes without using his phone. That's why they show us these hours where we're just supposed to see like, wow, he's always on his phone. Some people use their phone a lot. Some people don't. So they're trying to establish for us. And even though you see low power, maybe he's using his phone less because he has low power. Don't think that that's the case, because it's consistent with the fact that he'll just keep burning through his phone even when it's low on power. That's why the state keeps hitting on that.
Consistent with the testimony from David Grubbs from yesterday, the day
Previous
before.
testimony, yes.
All right, below that, 7:55 time period, we have 2 entries. Can you explain those 2 entries to the jury and how they relate to each other?
So 7:55:44 to 8:05:28, we have Paul Murdaugh's iPhone showing approximately 262 steps traveled. And a close time frame from 7:55:32 to 8:05:07, we show Alex's iPhone traveling approximately 270 steps during that time period.
So this seems to be during the time of day when they were like checking out the daisies and stuff. And he said they were going around the property together, right? Presumably. This, which confirms his recount of the afternoon/evening. Because remember, this is June, so in South Carolina, so it gets dark probably like around 9 o'clock or so. So that they were going around the property together.
And then at 7:56, what is reflected as it relates to that Snapchat video?
This is when the Snapchat video referencing Alex Murdaugh would have been sent through Paul's Snapchat account to his friends, based on previous testimony.
And it was created, you already testified to this, but it was created when?
I believe 7:39:55
And it was sent out to his friends when?
at 7:56 p.m.
So the state definitely wants us to
Moving on to
believe
page
that he was wearing that
12
blue shirt at
7:57.
7:39.
Does one of his friends respond?
Yes, he receives a Snapchat message from Brian Murdaugh
Nope, sorry.
stating, "Damn, man, needs some straps. Oh, it."
All right. Now we're moving into the 8 p.m. hour on June 7th, 2021. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. We have a map here. First of all, in the right corner, whose phone is this?
This is going to be Paul Murdaugh's phone. This is going to
Dove feelers feel that they would set up to shoot doves. Oh, so not a dove code. Interesting. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the super chat, Alexis. Pay attention to just how much information is collected by your phone. Hence, mine does not leave my apartment, but is typing this. It's pretty scary. Big Brother knows what you're doing.
be his iPhone location data.
And starting up at the, it's sort of the top center, more to the right. Where does that location generally?
That's going to be the little cabin on the property.
All right. And what is the data point? What's the time on that data point up there?
No need for a change of clothes. Undress at truck. Shoot sans clothes. Hose off. Redress. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That's interesting. I mean, you say he's running around there naked? He's running around there naked? He had to change his underwear. I mean, he's taking off his pants in front of whatchamacallit. His underwear would turn bright red. You think he's running around there naked? It's his own property. It's a pretty big property. He could do that.
I believe it says 8:06:20 p.m.
All right. And then we see the dots sort of moving down. And in what direction are they generally moving?
That's moving towards the main house on the property.
All right. And then down at the bottom of the screen, at what time do we see that data point stop at the main residence?
8:14.
What's the first data point?
8:08:45 and then 8:14.
Paul's at the main
Yeah.
residence at what time? First?
8:08:45 p.m.
All right, we're starting to get close to the time here. Here we go. Because this is around the time that he says he's falling asleep.
All right. And just on page 13, we have some earlier data points. Is this map kind of out of order just a little bit?
It is. This is just going to be earlier data points at 8:05:14 and 8:04:45, just showing some location.
Now, I do want to clarify that before this case came to trial, he ends up admitting, like a couple days before, he ends up admitting that he was down at the kennels and that he had forgotten that he had been there. So
Data from his iPhone.
you can do with that information whatever you like.
Should have gone before.
And I will point out to you, those of you who are who are sitting there trying to defend Alex, saying, "Aha, you see, he admitted it before trial." He knew what information was going to be coming out of trial. Through discovery, he would have known that this testimony was going to come out, and all these different people are going to be testifying that they hear him there. So, yeah, it's not really anything significant that he admits it a few days before trial.
For this one, the one at the bottom of page 12,
That is correct.
which reflects Paul again getting back to the main residence at what time?
Actually asked.
8:08:45 p.m.
That's not nice.
Looking below, again on page
It was a mercy.
13,
It was a
you see,
mercy.
2 entries for Paul and Alex's phone, and if so, please explain to the jury what they are.
So for Alex's phone, we show between 8:05 and 8:09 that his phone approximately took 54 steps traveled during that time period. And then for Paul, we show 8:05:46 to 8:15:24. We show approximately 303 steps traveled during that time period.
So it seems as if they're not together. I mean, they're one's going much further than the other, if there's any credibility to the steps thing, right? I mean, one's 54, the other's 303, 250 steps. That's you would imagine 3 feet per step. It's basically, you're talking a difference of 750 feet. That's more than 2 football fields away from each other.
Moving on to page 14, do we see that same map again of Paul's phone?
I think Alex used a Chinese balloon to move around while committing the fraud and murder so as not to be tracked. We know the government at the time couldn't track these balloons. You should. I almost, I try to create like new intros whenever I have time, and I almost did a thing about Antony Blinken going to meet with the Chinese and face off with them about his whole thing, and I was creating an intro based on the Chinese spy balloon thing, and I scrapped it as being too racist. So I was like, I don't think I could do this. I had references in there to like, I had references. So, yeah. I was like, I don't know. When I run for office, it's not going to be a good soundbite. It's going to be a bad soundbite when I run for office. If the shirt and pants he's wearing in the tree video have never been found, that makes me move the needle toward guilty. What you say, Joe? Oh, so this has come up. I'm glad you're asking this, Marty. He moved out of the house. He moves out of the house. You can say this. I understand this. I mean, that's a logical thing. We're trying to just be fair. Not that he's guilty, like should be convicted, but that he actually did it. I assume that's what you mean. On cross-examination, when this topic came up about the fact that they never had it, Jim Griffin, I think he asked Special Agent Owen there, saying he never went back to the house after that night. Like he moved out of the house, right? I said, yeah. And you never asked him for the clothing, right? Yeah. When he moved out of the house, you think it's likely that he took clothing with him that he would just wear? Like if he knows he's moving out of the house, he's going to take clothing with him and take it to the place that he's living at for the next several months? Yeah, probably. Oh, okay. So what the defense wants us to believe is the reason that the maid never saw his clothing again and the state never got it is because they never asked for it. And that presumably they want us to believe that he took the clothing with him as part of his, stock of clothing to wear while living outside the house. If you can believe that, you can reject it. I'm just telling you what the defense wants us to believe.
I'm reflecting him arriving at the residence at 8:08.
8:08:45.
And here's the other point. A lack of evidence is not
there
evidence.
at what time? At the bottom time?
8:14 p.m.
All right, we're getting towards kill time.
All right. Again, at 8:07, what, if anything, do we see?
At 8:07:20, we see that Paul is sending Snapchats to a few friends. That's based off his Snapchat records.
All right, the next entry is in purple, and then there's kind of a line going from that. Explain what that purple reference, that time period references, and then the line that travels down the side of your timeline. Explain to the jury what that's going to represent generally to the various phones as we go forward.
As we go forward, anytime you see purple, that's going to represent Maggie Murdaugh's phone. And for this instant, it's going to represent on the left-hand side, the line going down. Anytime you see a line next to something, that means whatever it says on the left. So if it says device locked, it means the device was locked during those other time periods. So this is going to show from 8:11:08 to 8:31:15 that Maggie's iPhone was locked. And as we move down, you can see it continue to the next page. That means during those times it's locked.
All right, so we'll see multiple of those as you go forward, just explaining time periods where various devices were locked or other things were going on.
That is correct.
All right. Moving on to page 15, we have a map. Explain to the jury.
And this is good as we're getting into the key time here that they're clearly demarking. This is when I say good, I mean, it's good legal work, and to make it a little clearer for the jury what we're looking at here, so you don't see a blob of information to distinguish, okay, this information relates to Maggie's phone. So we sort of, it's the visualization here is a healthy way of presenting your case.
So this is going to be for CB Rowe. And this is a overview map. You can see Augusta, North Augusta area, and it's showing the sector and the tower that it's pinging off of at 71315 in the North Augusta area.
You say 713 or 813?
I'm sorry, 81315.
All right. So CB Rose phone is pinging over here, way over here in Augusta. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, moving to the next map. Whose phone is this? If you could tell whose phone this is, and then what data points you see on this particular map.
So this is going to be Paul Murdaugh's iPhone location data. So it's going to be separate from like Verizon location data. And this is showing at the area of the main house, bottom left. And the data starts at 8:14 and goes all the way to 8:35:07.
835. Paul's phone is located where?
At the main house, 4147 Moselle Road.
And down at the bottom of page 15, do we have any step reference for Paul?
We do from 8:15:55 to 8:21:45. We're showing approximately 140 steps traveled.
Okay, so now we're showing Paul walking around another 144 steps. We don't know which direction. I hate how they do the steps thing. They don't tell us that you're walking back this way. You know, why can't you show us little menchies on a map? You know, give us a little visual. If you know he walked these steps, why can't you point us to the general direction as to where he is? You must have an idea. And is it in one direction? Is he walking back and forth the same pacing, the same 30 steps over and over again? Like, I don't know what that means. It's such confusing information. And why are we getting Paul Murdaugh? I was just complimenting you guys. I was saying, look, you're showing us that we're dealing with Maggie's phone, and now I'm getting information about Paul's phone, and I got the purple for the Maggie. Why are we doing it this? Why can't you put Paul in red? Put Alex in green? Like come on. Stop trying to confuse me. 2K Moolah movie taught us geolocation is not accurate. Yeah. I don't know which movie that is, but yeah. Anyway.
Paul arrived back in the residence about 8:08. You testified, is that correct?
That is correct.
At 8:17 and 14 seconds, what, if anything, do you see on Maggie's phone?
So it's highlighted purple in reference to Maggie. It's going to show that her phone ended at the connection to the Mercedes-Benz, which is the MBUX 95224. It shows that it's unplugged.
And what is that?
Like, am I wrong in saying that, like, look, you can color code, and every time you're talking about Paul, make it a different color? I like the purple for Maggie. That's fine. Why not just color code Paul and Alex also? So this way we're like, oh, okay, this is Paul moving. This is Alex moving. And you just sort of lock it in your brain that way. It's like they're trying to confuse us. If he was naked, Paul would have put his hands up to cover his eyes. So he must not have been naked, because he would be like, no, Dad. It's a good thought.
I mean, what does that reference mean as it relates to Maggie's phone and the Mercedes she was driving?
It means that she unplugged her phone
From that
vehicle.
And the data generally reflects that she's at the residence at that point?
That is correct.
Paul 808, Maggie 817.
That is correct.
Alex's last data point on his phone was 652, right?
That is correct, based on the Verizon records.
And again, the reason it's so important for them to show if he's not using his phone, it must be he's dead, is because if he dies at 9:15, Alex walks. We know this for sure, because we know he was not on the property after 9:06. So if he dies after 9:06, that's perfect exculpatory evidence for Alex. So they have to lock in that he's dead well before 9:06. It's like really important to the state.
We have at 8:17:44.
And the only way we know when this happens is from their phone usage. And a lot of people might say, well, he's only got 4%. When I have low phone power, I know it personally. When I have low phone power, I don't use my phone nearly as much because I don't want it to die. And, deal with the whole, so I'll sort of be like, all right, I got to get this thing plugged in pretty soon. He's all the way out the dog kennels. It makes sense to say that it's logical for him to be limiting his usage and not just be hanging out Snapchat when he's at 4% power.
4 p.m. Do we have a battery reference for Paul?
We do. It shows that his iPhone was at 4% battery life at that time.
As we continue forward, do we see Paul continue to use this phone?
We do.
At 8:17 to 8:18, what, if anything, do we see on Maggie's phone?
We're showing approximately 38 steps taken during that time frame.
All right. And that would be after her phone disconnects from the Mercedes?
That's correct.
8:19 p.m., what do we see on Paul's phone?
We see that he connects to a PRTC Wi-Fi and that he receives a Snapchat message from Ansley Wilson stating he got the magic touch. He also sends another outgoing text message or Snapchat message.
All right. Now, PRTC, his phone connects to PRTC. What is PRTC?
So PRTC is going to be the local internet telephone provider for this area.
All right.
So it's just showing a Wi-Fi connection.
And was PRTC, to your knowledge, providing services to Moselle?
Thank you for the rent trigger
They're
to us.
providing services
It's not
to the main
necessary, but I
house and then
appreciate
the
it.
cabin.
All right, going below that, we have a series of communications.
I'm peeking,
And
you
these
guys.
Communications are these going sort of back and forth, a series of
You
communications.
guys are all
This is going to
amazing.
be Paul Murdaugh's series of communications.
And
A
I'm
nice
not gonna
little
read each
intimate
one or
locals
have you read
chat.
each one, but are these generally communications going back and forth with his friends?
That is correct.
And on this page, they start about what time and continue through about what time?
Start around 8:23 and go all the way to 8:29.
Well,
I think we keep on going down. Yeah, about 8:30. It's about 8:23 to 8:30.
all right, at 8:30 to 8:33 p.m., what, if anything, do we see on Maggie's phone?
We're showing that her phone took approximately 42 steps traveled during that time period.
All right.
Yeah, they don't tell us whether he read these messages.
And that starts at what time that Maggie's phone
They say
starts
Paul
reflecting
Murdaugh
stuff?
responds to Megan.
8:30 p.m.
About 8:30.
So he really does use his phone to just completely screw around even when he's down at 4%. Like he's sitting there like socializing with his friends on his phone when his phone's almost dead. And he's all the way up by the kennels.
Going on to the next page, page 17. Going back just real quick on page 16, generally that series of communications with Paul and his friends, is he generally responding fairly quickly to the communications back and forth?
He is either, it's their Snapchat and iMessages. He's responding and using those two applications very frequently.
Now we're at the top of page 17 at 8:31 p.m. Describe to the jury generally what this data entry is.
So this is going to be a group message from John Marvin Murdaugh. It's talking about how they're planning to go visit their dad tomorrow and asking if anyone else is going. Listed here, everyone that's in that group message.
And that's generally a number of family members.
That is correct.
And the dad they're referring to is who?
It's going to be Alex's dad.
Mr. Randolph.
That is correct.
And based on your knowledge of investigation, he had a turn for the worst health-wise around this time?
That is correct.
All right, well, let's talk about that very quickly. That did the defendant receive, or did his
Leave the
phone
clothing
receive that
video on the
text?
restroom
His
floor
phone
and
and
maybe
Maggie's
what he
phone
changed
both
into when he gave his white
text
shirt and
message.
shorts. It's very confusing because when Blanca testified, which I covered that testimony, I think it was on Wednesday, but she's the maid. She said she found clothing that probably was the clothing. I was talking to someone else on one of the streams about this. He gives clothing that he's wearing when he meets the police to the police. Presumably he put on other clothing. So the clothing she finds is probably that clothing he wore the balance of the night. That's the most likely thing to be really realistic. Like, it was like another pair. It gets confusing between he has so many pairs of cargo shorts and t-shirts and stuff like that. It's very likely that what she found, which had no blood on it, was the clothing that he put on after the police took his clothing. He probably put on other clothing, and then when he got undressed and went to bed that night and took his clothing off, probably left that behind. I mean, he's dealing with the death of his wife and son, so he probably would have left that around for the maid to pick up.
And did the defendant ever read that text, according to the phone at least?
According to the phone, it was not read until the following day, 6/8 of 21 at 1:44:49 p.m.
And that text came in at what time?
8.
Same as you, KHB. I also, I saw enough of that podcast. I'm like, yeah, this guy probably did it. And the more I saw of this, and the more witnesses came forward talking about how much he loved his family, state witnesses coming forward saying how much he loved his family, and so little evidence tying him to these crimes, that it's almost, and their lack of a motive. Oh my God. I mean, I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again. Just from the whodunit element, if the state is correct in their theory that he did it to get a continuance on the boat trial, he is the first lawyer, I am positive, in American history to kill a family member, or two, even more so, to get a continuance. I mean, it's such a stupid theory. If you're a lawyer, you understand how stupid this theory is, because his father is Mr. Randolph Murdaugh. His father is a well-known individual for decades in this part of the world. Very powerful, very influential. And he's dying. He's been put on hospice care. Why? Why would you be looking to get a continuance by killing family members when you can get sympathy and the same continuance just by saying, hey, my dad's dying, I need to take care of family stuff, prepare for this because, he's in hospice. He'd get a continuance, same continuance. It's such a dumb theory. You might as well say that he did it because they didn't give him gum. Paul was chewing and popping that gum, and or that he was popping gum. It was like a straight out of the movie Chicago. And it's like, I would be like less shocked if Alex Murdaugh got up in court and started singing "He Had It Coming." He had it coming. That would be less shocking than him killing his son to get a continuance. It's such a stupid theory. It's who are you trying to kid? I'll tell you this much. In locals, one of my crew in locals there shared with me a clipping of Robert Barnes speculating that he thinks he's a big-time liar and a narcissist, and he's lying about a lot of things, but he probably didn't kill his family. There's probably a lot of things he's lying about, and that's consistent with what I've been saying all along. I think this was a mob hit. I think he knew this was coming. I think this was a mob hit. I think that there's a lot of things that he feels he cannot say without making his life, or Buster's life, much, much worse. Much worse. I really think it's probably about Buster. Because when he was at his most depressed, he probably didn't care whether he lived or died. But I think he's worried that if he says anything, that Buster's going to die. Why? Because he's on Open Secrets. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's really funny when they're checking when they're checking Paul's text messages. Don't be surprised. Like, we're gonna see when they're running through this timeline, and at 8:37, Paul texts out, I found credible information which will lead to the indictment of Hillary Clinton. I killed myself. Oh my God, that'd be so funny. Imagine if that's his last text message at 8:37. I just found credible information which will lead to the indictment of Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, that's hilarious. That is so good. That was the funniest thing.
8:31 on the dot.
And did Maggie read that text right away, at least according to the phone, her phone?
She did not.
All right. And when did her phone finally read that text?
Around 8:49:26.
What time?
8:49:26 is when Maggie read that text.
8:49.
8:49.
Oh, new colors, green.
And 8:31, what, if any, entry do we see?
So at the 8:31:15, Maggie Murdaugh's phone unlocks and does orientation changes. And then at 8:31:18 to 8:49:26, we show that her phone was locked.
I want to be clear. I'm not saying Buster did it. What I'm saying is I think he knows he may know who did it. Not that Buster did it. He might know about that it's a mob hit, and that he's protecting Buster from basically meeting a similar fate because he knows if he would come out and say anything about it, that Buster would be killed. So in the interest of protecting Buster, he's basically, fighting off on these criminal charges. But not that I think Buster's the one who did it. In case anyone misunderstood.
At 8:31, there's an orientation change. Does the data reflect that her phone was unlocked at that period of time?
That is correct.
All right. And then what happens after that at 8:31 and 18 seconds?
Her device is locked until 8:49:26.
8:49:26, is that correct?
8:49.
So her device opens at 8:49:26. So she's still alive at 8:49:26.
At 8:32:25, we have an entry in green and then a line going down. Can you explain to the jury those time periods and what, if any, significance they have?
So green is going to reflect Paul Murdaugh. Anytime you've seen green, it's going to be Paul, and purple is going to be Maggie. That's reflecting that his iPhone moved approximately 283 steps during that time period. So on the left-hand side, as we go down, and you're going to see other data entry points, if you see the green next to it, that means that those steps are being traveled during that time frame.
And now we have a
Now,
map.
can you tell us where he's walking? You're telling us that he's walking a distance of 283 steps. Can you tell us that he's walking toward the kennels? Can you share that information with us? Why can't you just give us that? Why? It's like they're still playing whodunit. You're supposed to be proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's like, ooh, I wonder where he's walking. Maybe he's going for a jog. What's happening there? Why is he going for a walk? I don't understand this. The whole presentation here. Just tell us. And we believe that this was when he's walking to the dog kennels based on the direction that he's walking and where it's pinging from. We believe this is where he's walking from his house to the dog kennels or whatever it is, even though he never walked to the kennels, supposedly. That's I gotta just point out one more thing. We've heard many times about his bad feet, his swollen feet. Guy can't walk. He's 20 years old. Practically has gout. I don't know what his story is. Some blood issue, circulation issue. Not looking to make fun of the dead or anything like that. I'm just saying he had some sort of walking issue. Hated walking. Never walked around. He's going 283 steps. And they're saying it's not by car. So I don't know how that's consistent with anything. Someone explain this to me. They're supposed to be making this simpler for me. Hey Joe, how much money did he embezzle from the death of Paul to he was fired from the law firm. I don't know. I don't know who Pearl is. I figure middleman stole money. Alex stole too much money to pay back, got caught, financial suit, came, mob sent a message, keep his mouth shut or bust her. Yeah. That's consistent with, that's basically what I've been saying too.
Whose phone is that?
This is also going to be Paul Murdaugh's, and this is going to be his iPhone location data.
All right. And where is that iPhone location data located?
That's going to be at the kennel area of the property.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And tell me the time periods that he is at the kennels at this point in time.
At this point in time, he's at the kennels at 8:38:07 p.m., 8:44:53, 8:44:55, and 8:44:56.
That chicken? It's a chicken. It's chicken.
What happens at 8:40 while Paul's phone is at the kennels?
Paul calls Rogan Gibson. It shows answered for 4 minutes and 14 seconds.
Starting at what time?
8:40:20.
If
I
you have
don't know
about
how
a
he keeps
4-minute call,
power.
what time?
He's at 3% power. He's at 3% power, and he's able to talk to him by video. My phone at 5%, I can't shoot any video once I hit 5%.
Was that in?
8:44.
At 8:44:34, what, if anything, does Paul's phone indicate?
So at 8:44:34, Paul Murdaugh initiates a FaceTime.
Thank
video
you, Fire
call with
Red
Rogan
Podcast.
Gibson. It shows answered 11 seconds long. And that's based off of Paul and Rogan's information.
And then at 8:44:55, what does it reflect on Paul's phone?
This is when this video was extracted and created through Paul's phone, which shows Alex, Maggie, and, well, you can hear Alex, Maggie, and Paul in the background.
That's the
You're
kennel
saying
video at
that's
8:44.
that's
you're
kind of-
saying it's Paul. You don't know that it's Paul. 8 other witnesses said it was Paul, but you don't know it's Paul. You don't know Paul that well.
a video that's been in previous testimony, correct?
Following below that, at 8:47 and 8:48, does Paul continue to communicate with his phone?
He does. He uses the iMessage feature in his phone to send a couple messages to Megan Kimbrell. It looks like it's based off of movie recommendations.
Are those communications for 10 minutes or just for a couple of minutes or a minute or so?
A minute or so.
Going to the top of page 19.
Mhm.
What time do we see there?
8:48:29.
All right. And what's going on? What's Paul doing?
He's receiving a message from Megan, and we have some backlight on data at 8:48:56.
All right. And the next entry, tell me the time periods for that entry.
8:48:58 to 8:49:01.
All right. And what happens there?
Paul Murdaugh's phone that's the last time that it was unlocked,
Ever?
ever.
Well, not ever until you unlocked it.
8:49:01.
But yeah, that
And the
night.
next
last time.
activity that we'll see on Paul's phone occurred when?
We have a backlight off from 8:49 to,
Going back to 8:48 to 8:49:01, you said that was when Paul's phone was last unlocked?
that is correct.
And continue on with that data entry. What is it?
Now, here's the thing about this whole unlocking and the phone usage. And the phone, because like I said, the reason this is so important, and I'm just going to pause here for a minute as I make this point. The reason they're making such a big deal about how much he uses his phone and how he keeps burning out his phone and doesn't mind, he doesn't slow down when he runs out of phone power is because of the fact that the only way we can figure out when he was killed is or try and draw some sort of inference as to what time he was killed is based on his lack of phone usage. Now, if a guy's phone is dead, he can't use his phone. So obviously that would affect, so the question is he going to be using his phone every bit as much, even when he gets down to 2% power? Because we saw like at 844, you got to notice he's at 3% power. So he has less than 3% power. He's at 2.5% power or 3. I don't know if it shows 3 when it's at 3.5%, but he knows that his phone is on its last legs. And the question is, maybe the reason he stopped using his phone and stopped opening it is because he's like, I want to plug this thing in. It's going to die soon. And maybe that's why. So maybe he doesn't die at 8:49. Maybe he dies at 9:15. You don't know. No, you weren't there. So maybe he dies at 9. Maybe he died at 9:15, and he's not using his phone because of the low phone power that he's got. And I don't know that we don't. The state seems very concerned about this, and I think that they have good reason to be concerned, because do we really know? I know that they said there was testimony from a phone guy saying that there was 3 times within the prior month that he burnt out his phone till death, meaning till the phone ran out of power altogether. But just because that happened 3 times, maybe every time he gets down to 1% power or 2% or 3%, that's when he starts limiting his phone usage. And that's why he's not reading this stuff that's coming in at 8:49 and afterwards. So yeah, and maybe it would get down till the death point, completely dead battery. But do we really know that he doesn't slow down his usage at all? Does anyone really know that? Maybe he died at 9 o'clock. We don't really know that. It's a very important thing for the state's case. It's potentially a huge hole because like I said, that would be thoroughly exculpatory. Yeah, if his phone is at 70% power and he stops using it then after he's using it every minute or so, that's a lot stronger. That's a lot stronger indicia that the guy was dead. But if, it's at 2% power, does it hit 2% right away? Probably once it gets under the half mark, right? I would imagine. I don't know how phones work, or certainly I don't know how his phone works. When you unplug your phone, it doesn't go right down to 99% because it's under 100. It'll take a few minutes. It'll take a minute or two before it gets down to 99%. So it's got to be that when your phone is less than fully charged, it'll still say 100%. I don't know, I'm just thinking this through.
Does it indicate? What's the next time ever that Paul's phone shows any activity?
10:18.
Who died first, Paul or iPhone?
That's when.
Well, definitely.
8:48 to 8:49 p.m.
Paul died first.
Activity
That we know.
notification is going to be the Rogan Gibson call at 9:58:35. That's the next time that any activity or notification.
His phone is still alive at 10:06 when his father calls, which is a miraculous thing. That when it's not in use, it lasts over another hour. And by the way, I have huge questions about that. I have huge questions. Because I'll just tell you me, I know my experience with phones. If I'm not using my phone and it's on and I'm not using my phone at all, it'll lose 3% of power, 5% of power in an hour, for sure, just being on. And this thing was down at 3% at 8:40, and it's still on at 10:20. I don't know how that happens.
Shows up on his phone.
Looking at this entry with the green line on the right side, What are those time periods there, and what do they represent starting at 8:49:01?
Starting at 8:49:01 to 10:34:23, Paul's phone shows device locked.
Was it ever open again until it died at 10:34:23?
It was not.
It doesn't die until 10:24.
8:49:01 is the last time before that Paul had ever unlocked his phone.
That is correct.
Just a few seconds later, does Maggie's phone reflect any activity?
It does. 8:49:26, so approximately 26 seconds later, her phone unlocks for text message notification, and it implements an orientation change.
And was that text message about Mr. Randolph that you earlier referred to?
That is correct, that group message. I believe it was in response to Lynn.
And at 8:49:31, here in red, what happens to Maggie's phone? Just seconds later.
Maggie Murdaugh's phone locks forever
Forever. Until when?
until it's recovered
So dramatic. Forever. Forever.
the next day at 1:10 p.m.
On June 8th.
on June 8th by law enforcement.
Do both Maggie and Paul's phone lock forever around 8:49?
They do.
The state wants you to think that's the moment they died, which seems unlikely. Now, maybe they died a minute later, 5 minutes later, but that's the second they died. I don't know. He has 15 minutes to get a lot done, including killing 2 family members.
At 8:49:35, does Paul's phone receive a text from anyone?
It does. It receives a text from Brogan Gibson.
And what does that text say?
See if you can get a good picture of it. Mary Ann, referring to his girlfriend, wants to send it to a girl. We know that's a vet. Tell him to sit and stay, and he shouldn't move around too much. That shows unread.
You never read that.
Never read it.
According to
And his
the
failure to read
investigation,
it, they want us
was
to
that the
think means he
conversation that
must be
Paul
dead.
and Rogan were actively engaged in starting at 8:40?
That is correct.
The kennel video was at what time?
8:44.
And then the defendant repeatedly denied that he was ever at those kennels with the victims just minutes before their phones go silent forever.
Objection.
Yeah, how the hell would he know that?
Basis for the objection.
Leading.
It's not just leading, it's worse than leading. It's bolstering. Like, his basis of knowledge of that is based on hearing testimony from others. It's ridiculous.
Don't leave the witness. Restate the question.
Did the defendant repeatedly deny ever being at the kennels? At that
To
time
you.
period?
Yes, he did.
What's his foundation
Various
for
interviews
knowledge?
with law enforcement.
Yeah, not you.
Was that
Foundation.
kennel video? What time was that kennel video?
8:44.
And what time do Paul and Maggie's phones go silent forever?
Answered it several times. Objection is overruled.
Overruled, of course.
8:49.
Any major
is when their
conclusions
phones
you get
went
from your
silent
review?
forever.
My major conclusions is that the state basically really wants us to tie in this time of death to when Alex was there, based on the phone usage. That's what I've gotten so far, and that basically we're supposed to think that they died at 8:49:35 seconds. They both died. Both dropped dead. Maybe they had a heart attack. I don't know. They both dead. They're both dead at 8:49:35. That's what the state wants us to think, which doesn't seem like it's possible that they both died, like, right, 2 different guns at the exact same minute, but all right. Oh, and also that he was killed by a guy who just a few minutes earlier was talking about a chicken and saying, come here, come here. Right, that's basically what we got. The driving top speed nonsense is another shiny object. Alex made it home within 1 minute or 2 of the drive time any other time. They located her phone with Find My iPhone, which would provide times and locals like Deps did. I agree with you that the driving top speed See, to me, so this is what I think the driving top speed thing is about. The driving top speed is supposed to make us feel like we're supposed to envision a man acting under stress. It's supposed to be a display to us that you see he was acting like you're a crazy person, because if you don't know that they're dead, if he has no way of knowing that they're dead, you would think he would be driving at his normal speed. And that the pressure of the moment is upon him. The state wants us to believe, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm saying the state wants us to believe that the pressure of the moment is on him because he knows that they're dead, and that he's going to be coming to this high pressure moment with a face-off with the police where he's got to be, calling 911 and going through all the motions properly. And that's why he's driving, like a crazy person. Or to cover up for the fact that he invested some time in hiding guns and clothing, things of that nature. So he sort of has a tight window. This is what the state wants us to think. So if he gave himself 5 minutes, and now he wants to be able to account for his whole alibi here on the whole timing of everything, in that case, if he covers the ground quicker than normal and they don't have the OnStar records, which I guess assuming he's too stupid to realize that his speed is being tracked, but that he's making up that time and buying himself an extra couple of minutes to hide guns and clothing. I think that's what they want us. That's what they want us to think is why he's speeding. I am very curious how he normally drove to his father. But also, you have to realize his father's in hospice. He's under a lot of stress here for a lot of reasons. They didn't say length of time at that speed, but his arrival time was within the 2 minutes as any other time passing would be a reason. Yeah, well, and the thing is, the other thing that they don't want us to think about is this dude's under a lot of stress because his dad is dying. And people are not themselves when, they're dealing with imminent death of a close family member. So.
At 8:53, do we see any activity on Maggie's phone?
We do. At this time, as you can see to the right, her phone is locked, but we do see that 59 steps were traveled over the period of 8:53 to 8:55.
And that just means the phone was moving, correct?
That is correct.
Do we see some orientation changes as well?
We do. Between 8:53:08 and 8:55:32, we see various orientation changes, which would indicate that someone has the phone based on previous testimony.
Moving on to page 20. At the top, we have 8:55, and we have a reference to a data point. Can you explain that to the jury, whose phone that is, and just generally what that is based on information gathered in the investigation?
8:55:48.
8:55:48, yes, sir.
That's just a internal application running in the background for Maggie Murdaugh's phone. It's just the iPhones will take a random snapshot of what's going on.
It's kind of silly that he's just reading this to us, but he's literally reading it. iPhone will take a random snapshot.
On the phone. So that's just reflecting that there was some, behind the scenes stuff happening in her phone. It's not saying that someone was actively using it.
Hold on for me just real quick.
But he couldn't get a hold of either one. Maybe he felt something was wrong, so he tried rushing home. That's true. That's a good point. A great point, Selena. As a country gal, I can vouch for driving like Alex Murdaugh on home roads, not what state is making out to be. Glad you're on tonight, Joe. Thank you. And that's a great point. Alex may, and that's why finding his records of how he normally drove is, to and from Alameda, where his parents were, is very relevant to me. And hopefully the defense will be able to put that on. Alex may have had a hand in the murders, but based on the state's case, there's no way Alex did it. Clearly, some haven't been watching the trial. Yeah, I'm convinced that there's something that this is a mob thing. My understanding was that the state does not have the actual murder weapons, not proven at least. No, they don't. They don't have it at all. 855 indicates only occurs if the phone is swiped up for home screen or changing apps. This means someone had the phone in hand and manipulating it. That's interesting. Could be. The reports of drug gangs using the waterways behind the property, a man is reported to adore his family, isn't a viable suspect in my opinion. That's why they're struggling with this motive so hard. It's not like he's like some trained killer or that these were strangers to him. I mean, this is his own family that everyone says he loved dearly. Alex may have handed. Okay, so there we go. We got that one. Should I cover all these? Yeah, but to confirm for you, Mike, yeah, they do not have the murder weapons. Otherwise, if they had the murder weapons, I think they always have like the markings on the bullet, right? That gets the little striations. Because every gun has almost practically own fingerprint, from what I understand. So.
Right here at the bottom of page 13, we have a reference to step data on Alex's phone.
That's correct.
And what are those time periods?
8:05:35 to 8:09:52. It's showing 54 steps traveled.
Oh, I thought you said stepdad. I'm like, who the heck is the stepdad? Steps of dad. So now we're going to go through Alex's phone individually? Okay.
Turning to page 20. What suddenly happens to Alex's phone around 9:02?
Well, what
Pretty much
happened?
wakes up.
I don't understand. What? Whoa! We're at 9:02. We're at 9:02. We're at 9:02. What was happening with his phone at 8:30? What's happening with his phone at 8:45? What's happening with his phone? Why don't we have the walking down? Why don't we have we had such detailed information every time like someone sneezed near Maggie's phone, we know about it. It's in lockdown mode now. It's in where's Alex's phone? I don't understand. What happened here? Did I miss something? We were at 8 o'clock and now we're at 9 o'clock? Hold on a second here. I'm not gonna let you get away with that. What? Maggie? I'm confused. I don't know what's happening here.
Happens to Alex's phone around 9:02.
Pretty much wakes up.
And what data point is reflected?
From 9:02:18 p.m. to 9:06:47, it shows 283 steps traveled.
And how long? How many minutes roughly?
Now they want us to think this is when he's marching from the kennel to his house. And to be fair, to the extent that steps are reliable, that is consistent with roughly the distance that we're seeing that it is from the kennels to the house. To be fair, I want to try and give the state, not That seemed consistent with that. Again, that's not indicative that he was there at the kennels at the time, but they're trying to say that at 9:02 is when he's walking back. So he has to kill them. There's no way, if that's when he's taking, assuming that's accurate, that he's walking from 9:02 to 9:05. The only way this would make any sense. Let's say we're in, I'm going to take a moment here to try and join camp guilty. Not that the state is proving guilt. I know they haven't proven guilt. They're so far from proving guilt, it's a joke that they've rested. But just believing that he's guilty, that it's possible that he killed it, even if the state failed to prove it. He has to change at the kennels. He starts leaving the kennels at 9:02. He's in his car by 9:06. He has no time to change clothing. It's a 4-minute walk. And if he's walking 283 steps, which is 700, and he's doing this between the 4.5 minutes of 9:02:18 to 9:06, assuming this information is accurate. Let's just assume, we'll give the state the benefit of the doubt. This information is accurate. So he's at the kennel and he's walking. So now I'm having a whole new theory. Let's try this one out. What do you guys think of this? I don't think he killed them, but he might have seen them get executed. He might have seen them dead, like killed by the mob. I have a brand new theory here. And they basically told him, you can't report this for at least an hour. Otherwise, Buster's next. Tell me how the defense. Imagine he gets on the stand and let's assume that this information is accurate, that he took those 283 steps at 9:02. Well, that would put him at the kennels when they're being killed, assuming the state has anything right here. And in that case, does that mean that he killed them? No. I think he might have seen him get killed. That would also explain why he's driving 80 miles an hour. But then he's calling. And he's claiming that he's calling. Here's the problem with that. I'm spitballing here. He's calling he's calling her phone at 9:06 and texting saying, I'm going to my father's. If he was there at 9:02 and saw them getting killed, why is he doing that? Unless he's trying to like hide that he was there. I don't know. This is a doozy. Where's Sherlock Holmes when we need him? Where is Sherlock Holmes? No markings on a shotgun shell or pellets. Really? The state needs to meet their burden. They haven't. I agree with you. I'm on the same page as you, Tara. Exact same page as you. They have not met their burden. Totally agree with you. The defense tossed out a couple names I hope we hear more on, but Rogan testified he was sleeping when Alex was calling him, had sent Paul 9 calls. I don't think he testified that. He said he tried reaching him. I don't remember that. I remember watching his testimony. I don't remember him saying he was asleep at that point. Unless he'd been sleeping earlier. But I don't think he testified that he'd been sleeping during that time. That's not my recollection. MS Krim says, but when did he have time to change his clothes and clean up? That's where I'm now lost. Unless he did that at the kennels. That would make sense. Like if he brought clothing with him. And what is with the change of clothing? That would explain the spray, I guess, if one of them was right next to him. But how are they getting on the property? The ground is wet. Would we see the tire tracks? But he tossed her phone without taking any steps. Yeah, the phone tossing was like half a mile away from him. Also, Alex step chart, column 27, 28 are transposed. Since I don't trust government, something stinks. They're out to get Alex, not the truth. Oh, I agree with you also on that. This is more of like, let's lynch him. I totally agree with you on that. Alex is the Flash, just ran the blood off his... Alex's phone is in the house when it wakes up after an hour of silence, or it would show movement when he is at the kennel. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't get him walking to the kennel. Like, I don't know what the steps are. This bothers me. The state not telling us where the steps are. Why don't... There's no sign from any of the cell phone towers that his phone was there at the kennel. We just know he's walking 280 steps. I've done 283 steps, put on clothes, go to the bathroom, put on clothes, and find my keys and put on shoes before leaving the house. That's true. I'm thinking about like Lady Logic probably does like 400 steps an hour without leaving the house. Yeah, I don't know what steps means. They want us to think that steps means in one direction. That's what the state wants us to think. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this out. To further your theory, he's running away from the hit. They nailed mom and son, and he ran away from the hit. 283 steps in 4 minutes is basically it's 208. It's 1 step a second. That's not running. Assuming he's going in one direction, that's 1 step a second. It's almost exactly a step a second, which is like normal pace, isn't it? It's a hurried pace. It's a hurried pace, but it's not running. It was basically 280 seconds, right? Yeah, that's a steady walk. A step per second is a steady walk. I'm just trying to picture it. All right, let's get back to our little mystery here, our little murder mystery.
5 minutes, 6 minutes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 521, your testimony, and see if you recognize that.
I do.
And tell me what that is, please.
This is going to be a paste spreadsheet for Paul Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Alex Murdaugh that I created.
All right. Your Honor, this time I would offer States 521 into evidence.
No objection. Admit it.
Now the other, please. And General, if I could have the screen.
I will tell you this. I do think he was at the kennels. I think that's pretty firmly established at this point. 8 different ear witnesses, and I'm pretty sure he changed his testimony about it, that he had been at the kennels. I think he was at the kennels at some point that evening.
All right, tell the jury real quick as we look at this exhibit, just admitted, just generally we have at the top, tell them quickly what this is and what these columns represent. Explain this chart if you would.
Oh
First column entry, that's just going to be from all the various entries from the phone data. We have a start time, we have a end time, we have the time elapsed in between the estimated amount of steps, and then we have a steps per minute calculation, which is going to be the far right.
And the steps, those are the data entries in this timeline that you've been testifying to as reflected from the phone data.
That is correct.
And then the last column is just a simple calculation of steps based on the time periods of those readings.
That is correct.
And the last step readings that we have on Paul's phone are from what time to what time?
The last step reading from Paul's phone is 8:32 to 8:42.
All right. We have one for Maggie as well, is that correct?
We do. Her last time frame is going to be 8:53 to 8:55.
And then down at the bottom, who do we have?
This is going to be Alex Murdaugh's pace spreadsheet.
Let's talk about this a little bit. If you would, start with.
What are you talking about?
And
Now they're
what
trying.
time
What are
period
they
is that?
talking about? 70 steps per minute, as opposed to it's not 70 steps a minute. It's basically you're talking 4 minutes. What are you talking? I'm looking ahead here at number 27. First of all, why is 27 ahead of 28? What are you talking about? This is what Tara was talking about. Yeah, I see what you're talking about, Tara. In 4 minutes, it's not. First of all, it's not 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes and 30 seconds. What are you talking about? This is garbage. It's 4 minutes and 29 seconds, not 4 minutes. This is garbage.
This is Alex's phone, correct?
This is going to be Alex Murdaugh's
Look at
phone.
entry 27, 902.18 to 906.47, because they're going to be basically hitting on the fact that, look, it looks like he's running. He's running. He's running. We got a runner. That's what they want us to think looking at this. But they say from 902.18 to 906.47 is 4 minutes, and it's not. It's 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It's actually 4 minutes and 29 seconds. It's almost exactly 280 seconds. There's 60 seconds, obviously, in a minute. Multiplied by 4 is 240 seconds. Add on another 29 seconds, it's 269 seconds. So he goes 283 steps in 269 seconds. It's barely more than 60 steps a minute. Not 70.75. It's only 70.75 because they condensed that 4 minutes and 29 seconds into 4 minutes. What a you see, this gets me mad. This gets me mad.
Right, time period.
6:52 to 7:02.
How many steps?
Approximately 283.
And how many steps per minute based on a simple math calculation?
Estimated 29.34.
And yeah, I see that 27 comes after
22?
28.
Time period, steps, and steps per minute.
7:03 to
But I think the entry number there doesn't really matter because they're talking about the time period. See, 8:05:35 to 8:09:52. That's actually 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
7:11. Approximately 165 steps. Estimated 19.
Oh, let's get past this part. This is
And
stupid.
estimated 5.46 steps per minute. Showing 29.
6.
26 is showing 7:55 to 8:05. 270 steps. Approximately 28.2 steps per minute.
28.
28 is going to be the 8:05 to 8:09. It's showing approximately 74 steps. That's 17.28 steps.
So if he's changing clothing at this point, when's he doing this? 8:05 to 8:09? Between 8:05, they're making it sound like there's a big gap here between these two, but it's not. I mean, he stops 26 at 8:05:07, and then 28 seconds later, he continues walking. It's not that long of a gap of time there.
Per minute.
And as you testified, that was the last entry on Alex's phone before we get to the 9 o'clock hour. Is that correct?
That is correct.
How's there no entry on his phone for an hour? How does that happen? That from 8:09:52 to 9:02, there's nothing with his phone? Did he turn his phone off? They would know if he turned his phone off. Is it in airplane mode? And why would he turn his phone back off of airplane mode at 9:02? That doesn't make any sense. Who turns their airplane? Why would he turn it off of airplane mode at that time? Oh, I just killed my family and changed clothing. Now I'm gonna turn on airplane, turn back out of airplane. This doesn't make any sense. Nothing's making sense. God, there's more questions than answers from this presentation.
And what time was the video again?
8:44 p.m.
Let's talk about 27. What's the time period there?
Time period's gonna be 9:02 to 9:06.
No,
How many steps?
no, 902.18 to 906.47.
283 steps, 70.75 steps per minute.
How do you sit here? How do you sit here saying this with a straight face to a jury? 70.75.
He was a busy guy right then, wasn't he?
Here's
Was that?
See, this
what
is-
was the
this is
average steps
hot
per minute
garbage.
From 902 to 906?
This is such hot.
70.75.
And was that far in excess of any ratings on his phone in those prior entries?
According to this table, yes.
Have the computer back again, please.
This is making me mad. Tell me they cross on that. Tell me they cross him on that 4 minutes and 29 being reduced down to 4 minutes. Please tell me they crossed him on that. That the dude is like literally just lied here on the stand. Someone who watched this, tell me that they crossed this. Really?
We have a map here on Paul's phone. Tell me very quickly what that represents.
We do. This is going to be based off of Verizon records for Paul Murdaugh.
You're all saying
And
no.
It's showing 903.22 and 903.30, just showing.
SC Medic says, note the only time the table that doesn't include seconds actually 62.8 steps per minute. Yeah, like I said, it was a step per second, basically.
What cell towers it was painting off of.
Again, is his phone still locked during this time?
That is correct. Paul and Maggie's phones are still locked at this time.
Bottom of page 20, we got a pink box. What does that reflect?
That's from the FBI telemetry data, just showing a system startup, the telemetry system.
On which
I
vehicle?
mean, Alex Murdaugh's 2021 Suburban.
I'm just going to mention statistically a third of you, which would be like roughly 400 of you, or based on calculations of this guy, 487 of you roughly are not subscribed to me. So if you could remedy that right here and now and hit subscribe, I'd appreciate that, because I call out hot garbage when I see it. So if you could subscribe, I'd say thank you. I appreciate that. Kayla says, in your legal opinion, does the defense have enough to appeal already, letting in so much irrelevant info? So, okay, this is a great question. It's a great question. In my legal opinion, well, you don't need my legal opinion, but I think in any attorney's legal opinion, you can appeal anything. The question really is, how strong is your grounds for appeal? Even Amber Heard was appealing, nonsense she's appealing, but you can appeal anything. Just a matter of like, what's your likelihood of success? And as Andrew Branco likes to say, appeals are for losers. So whenever you're appealing, a lot of it is given to the broad discretion of the judge. And to discretion, it's called abuse of discretion standard. Much of what happens at a trial goes by what's called an abuse of discretion standard. What does that mean? As opposed to de novo, de novo is the Latin phrase for anew, for the first time. So sometimes when you're appealing an issue, it gets reviewed de novo. That means we're going to ignore everything that happened at trial, and we're going to look at this and say, are things done the way they're supposed to be done? Most things that happen at a trial, most of them are reviewed under the abuse of discretion standard. What that means is, because trials are very murky, a lot of it's, and we don't want to have every trial be overturned. I mean, think of the mess that would be if every trial was overturned, because usually when you win an appeal, it just means we're going to have a brand new trial. And then you can have another mistake, another mistake, another mistake. Because of this, our justice system, when it comes to most things that happen at trial, the standard of review is abuse of discretion. Abuse of discretion means we're going to give a zone that would say if the judge works within his or her sound discretion, even if it's not something that the appellate court would do it that way if they were running the trial themselves, but because the judge decides to do it this way, we're going to defer to the judge's discretion. And that's the way most things are looked at in a trial context. What does that mean? Well, essentially, it means that the only time you would win the appeal is if when the judge's discretion is so terrible, so outside the box, so outside the norm of what we would want any judge to ever do, that we say, yeah, you have your discretion as far as objecting to hearsay and allowing it in, or sustaining an objection when you shouldn't be sustaining it, that you got the call wrong, and we're like, you know what, that's your discretion. It's your discretion. Over and over again, we'll get that. It's only when it's like, wow, you really abused your discretion. You have discretion, but you abused that. You went way outside the box. That's when an appeal will be deemed valid and to overturn the results of a trial. Now, when you're talking about letting in testimony, that is, and I can't speak to South Carolina's rules as to when they apply de novo, when they apply abuse of discretion standard. If you're appealing, you'd much rather have de novo and not have any extra credit given or extra leeway given because the judge already decided that way. So you always prefer to have everything decided de novo because you're trying to change what was there. And if part of the calculus of should we grant your appeal or not is, well, we're going to give some latitude to the judge, that's always going to be working against the appellant because you're trying to change and say the judge got it wrong. So in this context, I'll tell you this. So much came in that was just really, really, really far. I mean, the fraud case and so much that's potentially prejudicial. Whenever we're looking at things and we're trying to gauge whether something is more probative than prejudicial, we're trying to have an objection that this is irrelevant, or whatever level of relevance it has is far outweighed by the level of prejudice that it's going to cause to the defendant. Because any juror who's hearing this, they're just going to start hating the guy. And we don't want to have a jury find a conviction because this guy is a terrible human being if we don't, and not because he committed the crime that he's been charged with. And to me, the fact that he let in all of these different trials, I mean, trials within a trial, with respect to the fraud, with respect to the boating accident, with respect to the roadside shooting, I think the Cartwright case, Cartwright case is a South Carolina decision, which basically says this is the only time you should allow in information about an attempted suicide. And there's actually the Cartwright case puts out a 3-step test that you have to meet all 3 of these in order to allow testimony, allow evidence about an attempted suicide that's subsequent to the charge, that's the crime that's being charged. So, and one of them is there must be a clearly established nexus. I don't remember the exact language, but basically it has to be like basically beyond any question that the attempted suicide is related to the specific crime that's been charged. That's what the Cartwright test is. The judge said that he thought this was an exception to Cartwright because the door was open. I don't even know that Cartwright has that exception. He said you were asking about it, which even the level that they asked about it was in a follow-up to what the state said. I thought, to me, that I was like, this totally has to be overturned on appeal. This totally has to be overturned on appeal. And they're definitely going to appeal on that. To me, that Cartwright exception that he seemed to carve out without citing any case law to say that, there is a noted exception to Cartwright. To me, the judge is there just making up his own law. And I don't think that that's even an abuse of discretion standard. I think that's de novo. That's likely de novo. It's a sort of thing that's de novo. Because abuse of discretion is, we said this was hearsay. We objected. You said, the judge said, I'll allow it, even though it really was hearsay. And we, as the appellate court sitting here looking down, we think it is hearsay, but we're going to give the discretion to the trial court. That's one thing. When you're prejudicing someone for a murder charge, and you're letting in evidence that the higher court specifically said it should not come in unless you meet these 3 prongs. And he's like, well, it doesn't apply here. That's, to me, crazy. Which, to me, that's the judge is really going on a limb. Really going on a limb. Now, I don't know the politics in South Carolina. I don't know the standards as far as the standard. I've never researched a single case in my life other than reading that South Carolina decision in Cartwright to know the law in that particular in this unique circumstance. And I haven't done any further research to see are there exceptions to it. But I don't recall the judge mentioning any exceptions to it. He just sort of assumed that there was. That once the doors open, now you can, because the defense asked the state witness a question, and then the witness ended up walking down the road where he started talking about September. So obviously, since he mentioned September and the attempted suicide happened in September, we have to now allow the jury to hear this entire thing here. To me, that seems to really be pushing the boundaries of Cartwright in ways and bending it in ways that if I was a judge, I would be very uncomfortable that it be overturned if I tried bending it that far. Now, he might know something I don't know. That's very possible. I'm not a judge. He is. Maybe he's dealt with Cartwright before. Maybe he knows of exceptions that are in the South Carolina jurisprudence that he just never bothered to mention. You would think he would have if he did know of such a case. And he'd be like, no, we see, yeah, it's true that there's the Cartwright rule is the general rule, but there's an exception under Bradbury or Dunbar or whatever case name that said that except if the defense kicks the door open, that's the exception to it. But I mean, to just come up with that on your own is kind of on the spot. If he didn't have that case law, it sounds kind of crazy to me. Like, I don't even know what he's thinking. That's just insane. So my answer to you is, my gut says there's a lot to appeal here. There's a lot to appeal if he gets convicted. That's what I get. Good question. This reminds me of Casey Anthony threw too much at the jury. It's very confusing. It's such a bad job they did here. I think the state did a terrible job prosecuting this case. Did a quick cross just to show that info is unreliable. Oh, that's all he did on the cross? So you were answering my question. Tell me that he crossed on this. All right, so in that case, I'm not going to waste my time with the cross. This cop coming up says Rogan said he was sleeping. Oh, is that true? Oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't watch any of the trial after I left Nick's stream Friday morning. Just right after noon. So you guys would know better than I did. I hope they have phone location data on everyone. Rogan didn't answer Alex until the 3rd attempt. I'm not sure how that's going to be relevant, though. So if he's untrustworthy, the phone data is whatever the phone data is. And Cross said data is inaccurate, testimony is useless. Really? Now I want to see it. Regardless of whether I think he did it, the state did not prove beyond reasonable doubt that he did it, so the verdict should be not guilty. Hear, hear. Amen. I have no idea if he did it. He really might have killed his wife and kid. But I think the state did a terrible job trying to prove it, and that's why I want to see a not guilty. Joe, thank you so much for your thorough answer. I've been wanting the explanation on the appeal process, and you gave it. Thank you. You're very welcome. I don't know about you, but I played Pokemon Go. GPS shows me moving sometimes 10 times more than I am, other times not at all. Insanely unreliable for steps. That's what everyone says. Everyone says that the step data is terrible. It's really, really awful. Do the snarky comments by the judge help appeal like you object to everything? You would think that they would, but they tend not to really play into it. They really tend not to play into it because they're not examining that. Even if it gets overturned on appeal, they're not going to be like, and you were a jerk to the defense. You know what I'm saying? Might it play in to the judges there saying like, wow, this guy was really being like ridiculous to the defense? It could, but you wouldn't read it in the decision itself. It would just be like, well, we're reversing we're granting the appeal and reversing the outcome of the trial, but they would never express it. You would never see that expressed. But that doesn't mean there's not conversation amongst the appellate branch and the panel of judges that are weighing in on it. So it could be a factor, but if it ever is a factor, you and I would never know it. That's the best way I can answer that question. There wouldn't even be language of, we see repeated instances of abrasive commentary from the bench to the to defense counsel. There'd be zero reference to that. That would be unheard of to write that in the decision. They would simply just overturn him and give their legal grounds for it. Now, like I said, they could be looking harder at it if they think that the defense counsel was abused by the judge. That's possible. We don't know if that happens. All right, let's get back to work here. You guys are asking good questions tonight. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Good there. Let me peek in on my redheaded kids. It's a bunch of redheads I have in locals here. They're good people. Yeah, I'm waving at you, Ipso and Triggered. I missed Joe earlier.
Is there a CDR reference to Mary Ann Dempsey attempting to call Paul?
There is.
Mary Ann Dempsey again is who?
And spiritual. Of course.
Rogan Gibson's girlfriend at the time.
We have two entries after that.
This whole color coding thing, which seemed like a really good idea, it's starting to get confusing now. I got red lines, I got green lines, I got purple lines. I could see brown, I could see blue, I could see violet sky.
Entries to the jury and tell the jury what those are, please.
Yep. So at 9:03:52 to 9:04:23, Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone backlight is on. At 9:04:23, Alex Murdaugh calls Maggie Murdaugh, shows 18 seconds in his CDRs. This does not show on that Dylan Hightower first extraction or the second extraction. And it also shows missed on Maggie's phone extraction.
That one's missing from Alex's phone, correct?
That is correct. In the call log, it is missing.
At 9:05:15, is there any activity on Alex's phone?
It shows that Alex Murdaugh calls Randolph Murdaugh, 18 seconds. Does not show on Dylan Hightower extraction or the second extraction, just on the CDRs.
We have a pinkish box. What does that represent?
Pinkish box can represent that system startup for the telemetry data for the 21 Suburban.
And the fact that the pinkish box is beige, indicates that you're kind of colorblind.
At 9:06:12, what happens?
Between 9:06:12 and 9:06:20, Maggie Murdaugh's phone implements orientation change from portrait to orientation sideways.
That starts at 9:06:12.
Yes, and it goes to 9:06.
Now, we didn't see any steps from Maggie's phone. We saw all these steps. There's all these steps. Oh my gosh, the steps. Check out all the steps that are happening when Paul's coming and doing his supposed, drag racing from the kennels to his house at 70 steps per hour per minute, or which really was 60 was really a step per second, not a step and a half, or the way they try making it out. But Maggie's phone's not with him. If Maggie's phone's with him, we'd see him moving the exact same number of steps, right? He don't got Maggie's phone. Someone else has Maggie's phone. Does he ask about that? Does that not lead us to believe that someone else is holding her phone? Because you should see Maggie's steps with Alex's steps if Alex has the phone. There's no indication that it's been turned off, no indication of anything other than the fact that it's just not moving as much as Alex's is. So clearly he does not have her phone. Why are we even here prosecuting this case? That's what I would ask him. Why are we even here? When you see, if we have any belief in this step data at all, that there's any sort of accuracy, we should see the exact same number of steps for Maggie and Alex's phone. And we don't. They said 54 steps from her that were not taken by him, and another 283 coming from him. What's going on? How do you explain that? Yeah, if the steps don't fit, you must have quit.
The orientation starts to change. What happens 2 seconds after that orientation starts to change?
At 9:06:14, so that's 2 seconds afterwards, the phone receives an incoming call from Alex.
Was that call on the call log when Dylan Hightower downloaded the defendant's phone?
It was not.
If I was defense counsel, I would start by basically questioning him about the reliability. This is how you do this, okay? Let me explain something to you. Strategically, the way you do this, if you're defense counsel, I don't know if he does this or not. Like I said, I haven't seen the cross yet. The way I would approach this is I would come up to him and you start questioning him about the reliability of this step information. Is it really reliable? Is it something that's, how do we know it's reliable? How do we know it's accurate? How do we know it's got any accuracy? And I would start pushing as if I don't believe in this accuracy. I question the accuracy of this. I don't think it's true at all. I don't think you can get anything from it you don't phrase it like that. You come at it aggressively. Like why anyone should believe that these steps are not completely made up. And when you're sitting here trying to say that he's, how fast he's going, how many steps per minute he's taking, that's completely inaccurate, isn't it? No. Paul, are you sure about it? What and your information that you're extracting this, you're positive this is accurate, that you didn't make any mistakes here? Are you positive that everything here is accurate? How do we know that the step information is accurate? What about the fact that the towers are glitchy and the service is glitchy? Doesn't that tell us? And have him start desperately trying to establish 100%. This is accurate. That's totally reliable. You, the jury, should totally believe everything about this step thing, everything about it. That's how you get him. You get him to lock in about how we know this is accurate. It must be accurate. There's no way this could happen. There's no way these steps can be mimicked or faked. This has to be real. This is how we know it's real. This is how we know all the steps. And I would focus on Paul's phone. On Alex's phone. I would focus on Alex's phone to basically say, you don't know that he took those steps, and have him basically start believing and selling it that the jury, if you're sitting in the jury and you question anything about the legitimacy of the steps as indicated on these phones, you're an idiot. You don't believe in gravity. You don't believe in basic science, because everyone knows that these steps are so perfectly counted as push him as far as he's willing to go. As far as he's willing to go. This is how you approach as a defense counsel. You have him swearing on a stack of Bibles and on the life of his mother that these steps are as reliable as 32.1 feet per second, that rate of gravity. You want him to be just selling it and pounding it. And this is how we know exactly where he was. And this is how we know he was at the kennel. And we can measure that it's 780 feet to go from the kennel to here. And that's in the time and all this stuff. And sell it. And then you say, so if we're so sure about the steps on the phone, in that case, we must be 100% certain that since Maggie's phone was on, Alex did not have her phone, and yet it was moving. His phone moved 280 steps. You testified that his phone moved 280 steps, and we're positive that's right. And we're similarly positive that her phone moved 54 steps. And that's how we know somebody else had her phone. presumably the killer. Doesn't that make more sense? Then you just play that song of na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye. No further questions. That's how you approach it. That's how I would do it. You have to use your opponent's strength against them. Know what they're going. Know where they want to come to. Lock them into it, and then use their weight to flip them over onto the ground. And that's how you do that. You end the case right there. It's done. It must be there was another killer who took Maggie's phone. Probably the same person who killed Paul.
(906:14) and (906:15). Are those referencing that missed call that showed up on Maggie's phone?
That is correct.
And (906:20), we're still seeing the orientation change?
Yep, that's when the orientation ended.
That's my question.
Moving down to the bottom, page 21, we have a bluish and a green box. Tell the jury what that is.
So, according to the FBI telemetry data, the blue is going to
Just wait,
indicate
Joe. It only gets worse.
a
God.
shift.
That's what they did.
in the
Dude became a
transmission.
gymnast.
And then
Really?
green is going to show driving.
The Suburban's underway.
That is correct, according to the telemetry data.
At the bottom of page 21, is there another call from Alex Murdaugh's phone to Maggie's phone?
There is at 9:06:52. Alex calls Maggie. It shows 7 seconds long, and that's based off of CDRs since it was deleted off the call history.
It wasn't on Alex's extraction, correct?
It was not.
Two
So
missed
why-
calls.
Two missed calls.
Would you speculate? What's his motivation for deleting that he tried calling her at 9:06:52? If he's the killer, what am I supposed to take from that? I don't even know what to. I'm trying to just jump into his brain and try to figure out why are you deleting that? That's such a stupid thing to delete. I don't understand this. I have no idea what the hell's happening here.
Moving to
It's almost like I sometimes get the feeling with this case, all kidding aside, I sometimes get the feeling that everyone thinks that he's like, some like brilliant mastermind. And it's almost like he's freaking Forrest Gump. Like he's just like, he's just like so close on the spectrum to being labeled like retarded that like you just, why would you delete that? Don't you realize it's going to be on the other phone? And how does that help you? Like, why would that be a bad thing to be? Like, why would you do? Like, it's like every time, like, it's like when Forrest is running, it's like, everything he says ends up being taken as being the most profound thing. Like he's inspiring John Lennon to write Imagine. That's basically what I get the feeling he's like literally an idiot, like just complete and total moron.
page 22, at the top. What, if anything, does Alex Murdaugh's phone show in relation to the Suburban?
So it's just showing that the device connected to the car. When you get in your car, your phone will pair. It's just showing a device connection to iPhone.
And then the next entry, there's a time range there. Explain that time range to the jury and what that means.
So starting at 9:07 and going till 9:44. 9:31:44. Her backlight is off.
The backlight is off.
Mhm.
That entire time period.
That entire time period.
Oh.
It was on, but now for this time period from 9:07 to 9:31, it's going to show off.
Going to this map, is that some of the cast data that you testified to the jury?
This is the previous slide that we had up. It's showing at 9:07:06. The Suburban is leaving 4147 Moselle Road.
2 calls to Maggie. Does the Suburban just take a quick right and go down this road right there to the kennels, or does it just continue straight on?
It just continues straight on.
Doesn't stop by the kennels for a second, does it? Doesn't stop by the kennels.
Still
This
leading.
vehicle does not stop by the kennels.
Keeps right on.
When you say doesn't stop by the kennels or doesn't stop by the kennels, either way it's leading. Just to clarify, those of you who just hear leading all the time, so you understand what the thing means, okay? When you're asking a witness questions on direct, you must ask open-ended questions, not something like, was the light red? Was the light green? It wasn't red. It wasn't, where it's either or. That's a closed question. You only have two answers, yes or no, green or red, blue or yellow. You're sort of, but if you ask what color was the light, well, the light might have been purple that day for whatever reason. It's any color. So if you say, did you go to the kennels? He didn't go to the kennels. It's designed to get yes, no. That's leading. And it's funny that when he hears objection leading, he changes his question to just like from he doesn't go to the kennels to he does go to the kennel. Does he go to the kennels? That's why in the Depp trial you saw so many times that what's her face tried fixing with what if any, which frequently will fix a leading question, not always. It frequently will, and she uses such a crutch that it was like kind of comical because she used it even when it didn't fix it. Like, you know, did he hit you at that time, if ever?
No.
It's right on going to Moselle Road, makes right.
When, if ever, at that time did he hit you? Still leading.
Going down to the bottom.
All right, we're going to speed you up
Page
a little bit now because
22.
I'm more bored by this part. So we're going to speed
It's
this
just
part up.
another data point. It's showing the approximate location of Maggie Murdaugh's phone when it was located. And at 9:08:36, it's showing 42 miles an hour on Moselle Road. And in reference, we're coming up the Godley Farm Road on Moselle Road.
Okay.
This is at 9:08:36.
And then we have, below that, we have a reference to a data point that you previously showed to the jury at 9:08:42.
Yep, it's going to be on the next page.
All right.
It's going to be at 9:08:42. It's showing approximate miles per hour of 45 in reference to where the phone was found the next day.
I'll tell you right now, I think he's going to be found not guilty. That's what I think is going to happen. I think he'll be found not guilty. I think by the time the defense is done, everyone in the world is going to be like, there's no way we can convict him on what you guys gave us. That's my gut. I could be wrong. That's my gut. I'm not hedging that with hung jury or whatever. I'm just saying, I think he's found not guilty. I think a lot of people will be angry and screaming at the jury. I think he's being found not guilty.
Okay.
Because
And
this
what's
is a
the
terrible
speed limit for the
case.
vehicle at that point?
45 miles an hour.
And is Maggie's backlight off during this time period, this entire time period?
Her phone is locked and backlight is off.
At 9:08:58, what do we see?
Alex Murdaugh sends a iMessage to Maggie stating, going to check on M, be right back. This shows unread in Maggie's phone.
Moving on, does Alex's phone reflect a series of calls?
What if any
being made?
motion to the
It does.
truck go towards
Now we got
kennels?
the first one.
First
It
one's
went
gonna
towards the
be at
kennels.
9:47.
Yes.
Alex calls Buster. It shows 60 seconds long. That's based off the CDR.
And the reason leading is not permitted on direct is because we're supposed to be getting the witness testifying, not the lawyer testifying.
It's not in his phone extractions.
That's again also missing from that entire series of events around the time of the murders that was not on Alex's extraction when it was downloaded.
That is correct. It's not in the call log.
So what's the state's theory as to why that was taken out?
Down at 9:12:14, what if any activity is reflected on the defendant's phone?
Alex Murdaugh calls Chris Wilson. It shows 42 seconds long. That's based off his CDRs because it's not in any of his phone extractions or call log.
It's connection time as well.
It does.
Moving on to page 24, we have a map.
Now, I'm just going to, here's a public service announcement I'm going to drop on you guys here. Some of you may have a close friend who you say, look, in the event, God forbid, something terrible happens to me, you're my fallback to clean out my browser history. You're my guy, okay? Just come, don't go looking, just clear it out. You're my fall guy, okay? Public service announcement, do not make Alex Murdaugh your fall guy. He's not the guy you want. I'm just saying, those of you who have a fall guy, don't make it Alex Murdaugh. He's so bad. I don't know why he's deleting this stuff. I don't know why he thinks it's going to help him to delete it. But whatever, my God, what an idiot. He's so bad. He's so bad. It makes me feel like less of a boomer. I guess he's 2 years older than me. So
Tell the jury quickly what this map reflects.
It's going to be Alex Murdaugh location map from Verizon. It's going to show at 9/12/14 what tower and what sector it's pinging off of, and then at 9/18/46 what tower it's pinging off of. The red dot's going to be Moselle. Green one is going to be the Alameda property.
Moving on to the next map, is that similar information of the defendant's trip from Moselle to Alameda?
It's similar. It's just going to show you the coverage areas for each tower.
And then on page 26, what does this map reflect?
This is going to be Verizon records for CB Row. Far right, the little red dot, that's going to be Moselle. Blue dot is going to be CB Row's home in Brunson.
you're all laughing, but I'm saying, yeah, you know it's true. He'd be like, I know there was cookies. What are cookies? I don't know what cookies are. No, God, you stink. It's like, just don't even try.
Cell tower data at the time frame of 9/14, 9/20, and 9/21.
And?
In 11:37 p.m. This is close to Fairfax, just for reference.
He's pinging in the arc near his home over here in Fairfax. Is that right?
That is correct.
And where's Moselle?
Moselle is going to be that red dot to the right.
Incognito always, they probably deleted it, downloading it.
At 9/18/46, Alex Murdaugh calls John Marvin Murdaugh. It shows 106 seconds, and that's from his CDR since it's not on either phone extraction call log.
All right, we're on page 26 now. Tell the
I sometimes think that, like, if I was watching, I should, like, consider, I should take a poll like this. I'm very curious. This is, I am going to take a poll on this. Because I'm thinking about streaming trials a lot more. And I'm thinking that, pausing sometimes and explaining things to you guys is better, can be better than actually when you're watching it live, because it's like you're sort of understanding what's happening as you're watching it unfold. I'll give you a strategy and stuff like that. And if I'm watching the trial in live, you're sort of, I don't want to overtalk the witnesses or the questions. People get upset when you do that. I sometimes feel like I would stream a trial and have 8 hours of trial time and take 10 hours to stream it. And you'd be watching it a half hour behind everyone else, or whatever. I would fall a little bit behind. I might catch up here and there, but then I might stream trials with actually taking pauses here and there to explain stuff or weigh in with whatever stupid thoughts are floating through my head. And I'm wondering if that's something that you guys would actually like. If I was to stream this trial, because I'm envisioning, for example, I'm envisioning, I know Nick is going next Sunday. He's having his whole Vegas thing. He's not going to be back on Monday. This trial is definitely still going to be going on. a week from tomorrow, this trial is still going to be going on. I guess now it's 2 a.m., so it's like 3 a.m., so whatever. So it's actually today. He's not going to be back yet. So I'm probably going to end up streaming it. And I'm like sort of thinking, like, I kind of think that like it would be a better way to stream, to like actually just let it run ahead of me and then sort of start trying to catch up and, do it that way. I wonder what you guys think about that.
What this map reflects.
There's also going to be Verizon records from Alex Murdaugh's phone plotted. It's showing starting at 6:20:34 all the way to 9:46:35.
I'm putting a poll up on that.
It's showing from the cell tower in the sector of Alameda.
You said 6:24 or 9:20?
I'm sorry, 9:20:34.
So roughly 20-minute period at Alameda?
Roughly 20 minutes, correct.
Moving over to page 27, what is this map?
This is just going to be a zoomed in picture from the previous one, just showing the same time frame, just showing a little bit more zoomed in from the cell tower in proximity to Alameda.
At 9:20:34, what if anything happens on the defendant's phone?
At this time, Chris Wilson calls Alex at 9:20:34. It shows for 131 seconds. And we got this data from the CDR since it does not show on either one of his distractions. And during that time, Claude CB row at 9:21:36 calls, but Alex does not answer it.
And again, his phone was pinging back at his house in Fairfax at that time period, correct?
That is correct.
We see the blue and green box. Tell the jury what's happening with Alex's Suburban at this point.
So at 21:22, which that's military time, is going to be 9:22. Green is going to show vehicle movement, and blue is going to show transmission.
All right, pull this one up.
And is that consistent with the OnStar data at 9:22:49 of him arriving in Alameda?
It is.
And on page 28, is that data point that you just referenced?
That is correct. 9:22:39.
By the way, to not mind me points out in
Starting
Rumble,
about 9:22, does Alex?
it's pretty funny. He's right that the state is using the fact that Alex vehicles didn't go to the kennels as guilt. Like that's his job now, to go to the kennels.
Step activities.
It does 9:22:39 to 9:32:14, showing approximately 195 steps taken on his phone.
At 9:24:13, what if anything does the defendant phones reflect?
He calls Libby Murdaugh, which would be his mom, shows 20 seconds long. That's from the CDR. It's not on either phone distraction.
And that would be the landline at Alameda.
That's correct.
After that, is there another missed call from Rogan to Paul?
There is at 9:26:06 p.m.
And then at 9:31:44, is that the first backlight activity on Maggie's phone since that time
Who
period?
cares about her backlight
That's
activity?
correct.
We get it. She's dead.
At 9:34, around that same time, is there any communication on Maggie's phone?
No one
About that
cares.
Backlight activity.
There is at 9:34:14. Rogan Gibson sends an iMessage to Maggie Murdaugh saying, tell Paul to call me. And that shows unread,
Never read?
never read.
Do we also have backlight activity associated with a missed call to Maggie's phone?
We do at 9:34:20.
Up here at 9:34 to 9:36:20, it says Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone backlight. Is that backlight off?
That's going to be backlight off.
Just the off is missing from the words.
That's correct.
9:35 to 9:45, 10-minute period. Is there any activity on Alex's phone?
It's showing approximately 60 steps taken.
With a risk case like this, no one will be convinced. It's true. It's so bad.
And also, as you see on the right-hand side, Paul and Maggie's phones are locked. It's referenced with the lines. In the color.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I would probably run it at 1 1/4 speed much of the time to sort of make up for the time. So I really don't want it to be like a 15-hour stream.
Coordination on the right-hand side.
And those lines have been continuing through the past few
They've been
days.
continuing, correct.
We have some orange and purple boxes. Quickly tell the jury what those are.
So the orange color is going to be that system startup from previous testimony from Falkowski. And then the pink is going to be engine running propulsion.
And is there another missed call from Rogan to Paul?
There is at 9:42:17. There's a missed call. And then we have Alex's Suburban showing a device connection at 9:42:49, which is consistent with the data.
All right.
Telemetry.
Suburban's leaving Alameda around this time.
That is correct. 9:43:18. We show it starting at 2 miles an hour.
We have some additional telemetry consistent with him leaving.
We do.
Is there any activity on Maggie's phone at this point?
So
I missed on this whole telemetry thing. Emily Baker was making a big stink about that, how he drives deep towards the woods when he gets to Alameda. Did they cover that here? And I just missed it. I zoned out for that. It's possible. Sometimes I zone a little bit. Did I zone out when they were saying that he drove like towards the backwoods behind Alameda, and that's where he parks rather than like, because there's speculation that the reason he parked all the way back there is because there's like a wooded area there and he was looking to hide the weapons and maybe clothing temporarily or for whatever period of time by Alameda, and that's why he drove all the way in. They did talk about that? Okay.
at 9:44:04 to 9:45:04, it shows that her backlight was off.
And is there a missed call?
They said that
associated with
here
that
now in
background
this
activity
testimony,
or around
Janelle?
the same time?
Yes, Maggie Murdaugh received a call from, it's going to show as PA in the phone extraction. It's just,
But if so, they really, really should have made a big stink about it. That's where they should have paused, taken this off, and been like, whoa, 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 whoa. So even though the house, he drives like 100 yards past the house and parks his car there, rather, or whatever, 100 feet past the house. But like, more than most people would want to walk, and it's not because he's, lack of parking, that he decides randomly to just park all the way back by the wooded area. Is that what the OnStar is showing us here? And really pound that home so that this way you could be like, hey, you heard our witness tell you how he specifically parked by the woods there, which is where he almost certainly, he dropped off the bloody DNA-covered clothing and the guns. And then later on, the next day or two, he went back to the woods and moved it when no one was watching him. Or they were showing the red dots? Oh, okay. All right.
it's with Alex's number. It shows missed.
And was that call missing from Alex's phone extraction?
It was missing from both phone extractions.
Yeah, I know the defense said that that's where Shelley let him in. But I mean, just because he used the back door doesn't mean he has to park 200 yards, past the back door. And it's fine. He used the back door to come in. Okay. But why? That doesn't mean you can park 15 feet from the back door. You don't have to go an extra 100 feet, 300 feet.
Going down to 9:46:35, what, if any, activity do you see?
It shows that Alex Murdaugh called Paul Murdaugh. It shows 18 seconds long. That's with the connection time. And that is based off of Alex's CDRs. It does not show in either extractions.
See, to me, that's the sort of evidence which is definitely circumstantial. There could be lots of reasons he's doing it. Doesn't prove guilt, but it would be one of those things that I would say that's another piece of straw you throw on it. You throw on this thing. You're trying to figure it out. It's like, that's a weird thing to do. It's a very weird thing to do, to park far from the back door. Now, what's considered far, that's a different question. But I'm saying is, if he's parking closer to, I don't know how big an area it is there as far as clearing versus woods, but if he's parking, if it's a considerable area of clearing and he's parking close to the woods and far from the house, that's pretty weird. That's a pretty weird thing to do. It's hard to understand what his motivation for that would be. I'm just saying. It could be a perfectly reasonable explanation for it. Doesn't mean he's guilty. So it doesn't, standing alone wouldn't mean he's guilty beyond reasonable doubt, but you could see why that would be a factor that would be something that's relevant. And it's not the same sort of relevance as, he has red hair and the guy who shot up a Colorado movie theater had red hair.
9:47:23, what do we see, if anything?
Alex sends a iMessage to Maggie stating, "Call me, babe," and that shows unread Maggie Murdaugh's extraction.
And do we see some backlight activity around the time of that text message, that unread text message?
We do, a couple seconds.
We have a map here. Just generally, what does this reflect?
We do. This is going to reflect the coverage area of the cell tower between Moselle and Alameda.
And this is whose phone?
This is going to be Alex Murdaugh's phone. This is going to be his Verizon records, not location data for phone.
Moving towards the direction of Moselle.
That is correct.
Additional maps consistent with that as testified to by Matt Wild.
That is correct. The shown coverage area.
At 9:52:15, what the activity is on Alex phone.
So at 9:52:15, Alex Murdaugh sends an iMessage to Chris Wilson saying, "Call me if up."
He was texting while
It's
driving.
around the time where he's running 80 miles an hour.
That's correct. 9:51:43 is
Give
when
him
we
a
have
ticket.
the 80.16 mile per hour.
All right, moving over to the next page. Is there any further activity?
Alex ends up receiving a call from Chris Wilson at 9:52:59. Shows 42 seconds long with connection. That is also not on either extraction. And at 9:53:55, he receives another call from Chris Wilson. Shows 123 seconds. And that is on his CDRs, but not on either.
Let's see data from other days to see if normal. That's true.
And then from at about 9:56:57, what if any activity do you see on Alex's phone?
So from 9:56:57 to 10:06:57, it shows that Alex Murdaugh traveled approximately 231 steps traveled during that time.
Starting at what time?
9:56:57 to 10:06:57.
Remind the jury what time the 911 call was.
It was 10:06:14.
At 9:57 and 9:58, what activities reflected on Paul's records?
So Rogan Gibson calls Paul Murdaugh, shows 4 seconds. And that's based off of CDRs. And then at 9:58:35, Rogan sends a text message to Paul stating, "Yo."
And that hits Paul's phone.
That is correct. And
It
shows unread from his phone extraction.
We have a bunch of green and blue boxes. Is this more telemetry data from the Suburban?
This is, the green's going to represent drives and blue is going to represent some kind of gear shifting with the vehicle.
But the GM OnStar data reflects what, about 10 on the dot?
It reflects him pulling into the driveway at 4147 Moselle Road, the main entrance.
And where did the Suburban go first?
The Suburban went directly to the house, bottom left.
It didn't go to the kennels first, it went to the house first?
That is correct.
And what time does it arrive at the house? Or what time right there in that map? That's what, the map at the top?
That's what the time that it pulls into the driveway.
I'm sorry. 1 second. At 10:03:36 p.m., there's 2 entries around that time. Can you tell me what any activity you see as it relates to Maggie's phone?
So Alex Murdaugh calls Maggie Murdaugh's phone at 10:03:58, and backlight is on associated with that.
And then starting about 10:04:08, what don't we see? What's on period?
So from 10:04:08 to 10:46:40, there is a gap in activity. I don't see any activity on Maggie's phone at all through the Knowledge C database.
At 10:05:06, what, if anything, does the data reflect?
It reflects Alex's Suburban leaving the main house based on the GM data.
Going over to page 35. Is this one of your cast maps?
Yes, it is. It's 10:05:06, and it's showing the time the Suburban starts to leave down to the kennels.
And going to the next map, what time is that?
Next map's going to be 10:05:57. That's the arrival time at the kennels.
So he
According to that
arrives at
GPS location down.
Yes, sir, by
10:05:57,
GM and OnStar.
and then
What's that time
calls.
It's going to be 10:05:57.
I'm just trying to think as far as the timing here. When he gets to the kennels and how fast he ends up on the phone with 911, what do I think is a normal time? I guess it depends how close to the body he finds. He gets there. But when he calls in, I think he mentions that he found them both dead, which means, I mean, now I'm really parsing through just distance between them. It looks like they're like I don't know, 15 steps from each other, 20 steps from each other, the bodies. So if he's finding the bodies for the first time, then timing on this, he finds them like right away as soon as he gets to the kennels, which is dark, but he finds them like right away. So that's a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like he's calling in, he's getting there. It seems like within 60 seconds, he finds both bodies and calls 911. It's a little fast. It's a little fast for him to find both bodies. and have like and then he's got to put the call through to 911. I'm thinking through if I'm sitting here in the jury box and trying to figure out if he did it or not. Again, I don't think no one should mistakenly think that I'm saying they've proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm just trying to sit here. I sort of waft a little bit between the whodunit of did he do it and, his actions and then talking as a lawyer as to whether or not they've proven their case. So, need to find my iPhone data for Maggie's iPhone. That will be key. Bodies were close together, headlights shining on them. That's true. The headlights could have been shining on them. But if you look at that scene of the crime when the police show up there, he said he checked each of the bodies also. Now, he could have checked the bodies, I guess, after he calls 911.
Down at the bottom of the page, what time is the 911 call?
10:06:14.
10:06:14. That's very fast. He's driving there at 10:05:57, and within 17 seconds he finds them both and calls 911. That's a little fast. Again, I still think it's very possible he knew about it, but just didn't kill them. So even if he knew about it, that doesn't mean none of this indicates that he's the one who pulled the trigger. And that's why, and that to me is a key thing here. But they're saying that he's driving. He arrives at the kennels at 10:05:57, and within 17 seconds, he's calling 911. That's very fast for bodies that are at least hers was in the darkened area. Now maybe the spotlight, maybe his headlights were on them, was on her. It's possible. That's 17 seconds. Is that pretty much? That's pretty fast. That's pretty fast. You have to admit, that's kind of fast. It's pretty fast.
It's going to be 10:05:57.
Down at the bottom of the page, what time is the 911 call?
10:06:14.
How many seconds is that from the time that the Suburban arrives at the kennels and he calls 911?
Roughly 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
That's correct.
It's actually 17 seconds. I think we all would admit that if he did it within 3 seconds, that's impossible. 17 seconds.
Do you recall the defendant's
Go to cross,
statement
it's
to law
not that
enforcement
fast.
Shortly after the crime,
Okay.
went over and checked the bodies and that sort of thing?
I don't know if I'm going to do cross tonight. I might do it tomorrow.
What, if anything, in his statements to law enforcement?
I'm starting to get like a little tired, and I've been doing this for almost 3 hours, so I'm going to be wrapping up soon. How much more of this do you have? They take a break at 3:55. I'm at 3:34. Yes, I'm probably going to stop when I get to there, and this guy's on the stand for like another half hour, 45 minutes. I'm definitely not doing that tonight.
What
I'm
did the
too
defendant
tired.
say about what he did when he arrived at the scene?
The defendant stated that he went and checked on Paul and Maggie to check the bodies.
And from the moment the Suburban arrived at the kennels, how
They
long did it
adjusted
take
on
for
cross?
that 911
Okay.
call to be made?
Less than 20 seconds.
Objection, leading poll, you don't babble. Oh, that's very thoughtful. Thank you.
Another call from Rogan to Paul that never be answered.
That is correct. 10:08:27. Never answered.
At 10:11:54, what happens?
This is when Alex Murdaugh was on the 911 call. Said he was going to go get a gun. This was at 10:11:54. This is when the Suburban is showing leaving the kennels.
And down at the bottom of page 36, we see another map. What does that reflect?
That's going to be 10:13:54. And on the next page, it's going to show the map. That's when his Suburban left the main house going back to the kennels.
And what time does the location data reflect that the Suburban arrived back to the kennels?
10:14:30 is when it's going to reflect driving back to the kennels. Or approximately, this is when he's coming into the view of the kennels.
And then what time does the 911 call in?
So the 911 call is going to end at 10:17. And then the step data is what the 10:16:37 p.m. is referring to. That's going to be when his step data ended. I believe it was 594 steps taken.
After the 911 call, does the defendant's phone reflect any activity?
It does. It shows him calling Randy Murdaugh, shows 16 seconds long with connectivity time. And that's based off his
I don't know
CDR.
why
So it was
we're
not
watching
found
this part
on
now.
either extraction. And then also we have a 10:18 where he's sending a text message to Randy saying, please call me emergency.
Is there step activity around this time on Alex's phone?
There is 10:18:53 to 10:28:05. We're showing approximately 525 steps taken during that time frame.
And does Paul's
Most of them were in a circle also.
No, again, at 10:18.
It does 10:18:08 to 10:18:20. We're showing backlight.
Was that after the 911 call had ended?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So 10:17 is when the 911 call ended, and this would have been at 10:18:08. So this would have been right after.
And the last text that hit Paul's phone was from whom?
Rogan Gibson. I believe it said yo.
Paul's phone still hitting, of course, at the kennel location.
That is correct. This is going to be off of his iPhone location data.
And where was Paul's phone found again, according to your knowledge of the investigation?
It was found on Paul's rear end, facing up.
Top of page 39, we have a map. What does that reflect?
This is going to reflect Verizon records for Alex Murdaugh, starting at 10:19 all the way to 11:18. And it's just showing the sector it was pinning off of. And that's in the area of Moselle Road.
All right, and we have a range of times there from the 10-ish hour to the 11-ish hour PM without phone being there.
That is correct.
Does Alex's phone reflect a couple of calls that were not on his extraction, but in the CDRs?
It does.
To what people?
It's going to be to Randy Murdaugh, John Marvin, and then Rogan Gibson, and then
At 10
Christy.
At 10:20:08, what, if any, activity does Paul's phone reflect?
So Paul's phone shows a display on screen auto lock. It's been locked. It's just documenting a auto lock.
Display on auto lock?
We'll never know 100% what really
Auto lock
happened.
can
You're
be
probably
consistent with
right,
what, according to
Babu.
your understanding?
According
Babu!
to my understanding is that auto lock could be, it doesn't
Yeah, you're
recognize
probably
like a
right.
face, so automatically locks, or it could be just hitting like on the iPhone, the power button on the side.
And what was the last text that hit Paul's phone again? Who was it from?
Rogan Gibson
And what does the defendant do just seconds later?
calls Rogan Gibson.
I should point out, by the way, which the poll, I'll tell you, is very heavy in favor of me pausing it. If I do it that way, I probably will have to stream by myself. Because if I have other people and we start having a whole conversation, it will take 17 hours. And I'm never going to have the strength for that. But I'll probably have to stream. I'll probably do it the way Emily does, doing it by myself. I don't know. I'll think about it. But it's right now, I've got 258 votes. If you can weigh in on this poll, as far as whether I should pause it or not, I'd appreciate it. Oh, and like and subscribe while you're doing that, while you're peeking in there.
Was that on the Dillon Hightower extraction?
It was not on the Dillon Hightower extraction or the second one.
What are you guys saying here?
You mentioned before that there was a group text about Mr. Randolph's health. And when did the defendant finally read that text?
The following day, so that'd be June 8th, 2021.
At 10:22:09, was there a text that the defendant read?
There was 10:22:09. He received a group text message from Michael Gunn and a few people saying she brought the heat from Miami boys, and it was read the same night at 10:38:42 p.m. An associated picture is below.
The 10:24 and the 10:25 hours, what, if anything, does the defendant's phone reflect?
Alex tries to call Rogan, and then he sends an iMessage stating, "Call me." And then he attempts to do a FaceTime, and this is going to be the first the first log that we see on his phone records is going to be this FaceTime call with Rogan on his extraction for the day of June 7th, 2021.
Multiple attempts to contact Rogan. Huh?
That's correct.
And what time does law enforcement arrive on the scene?
Approximately 10:25 is when the first deputy arrived on scene.
10:25.
That's correct.
We see step activity around the side while Alex is done.
We do. So we had a group of step activity end at 10:28:54, and then we had a new group start at 10:28:54 that goes to 10:37:27. It's showing 320 steps traveled approximately.
And does the defendant's phone reflect any phone activity after that?
It reflects 10:29:17 a call to Randy that shows answered 42 seconds long. That's also not on the extraction. And then a FaceTime with Rogan at 10:30:31 that does show on the extraction.
That was attempted FaceTime.
That's correct. I believe his previous testimony, Rogan said he was asleep during the time.
Moving on to page 41.
This is going to be a Paul Murdaugh Verizon Records.
Oh, so Tara mentioned this earlier in a super chat, Tara Rayner. I remember him saying that at a certain point he gave up and fell asleep. Because you have to realize to him this is a normal night. And he's a little annoyed probably at Paul for not responding to him. But, you know, he doesn't realize anything is happening. So, and he also is like someone who testified that he like wakes up at 5 a.m. to like go to work. He's a farmer. If you're subbing, you shouldn't pause. Your own streams pause. Strat with the defense. If you're subbing, you shouldn't pause. I mean, if I'm subbing, I shouldn't pause. Your own streams pause. Oh, if I'm subbing for Nick, I shouldn't pause. My own streams, I could. I was thinking the same thing, Sapphire. I was thinking the same thing. That if I'm stepping in for Nick, in that case, I should just do the panel and do it the regular. I would definitely do it as my own stream. And it would really be if I was like just competing with others, and it would be like my own way of covering live stream trials. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sort of like, it would be my unique approach where it's like, look, if you want to hear Joe watch it, if you want to sit through the trial with Joe, so it's like you're sort of really getting me, you know, as opposed to just, I don't know. You wouldn't really be able to bounce probably as effectively between one stream and another because you'd be like, wait, he's a half hour behind. Or why is he watching at 1 1/4 speed? I don't understand what's happening here. That's what everyone would be like. I do think it's an interesting approach.
This is just going to show the the tower and then just the location. And you can see Moselle Road within it. This is a 10:34 time period.
Is there a display on activity on Paul's phone, but also a phone call from Nolan Tootin around that time?
That is correct. Correct. Around 10:34, it's showing display on and then a Nolan Tootin phone call.
And then finally, what time does Paul's phone finally die?
Paul's phone finally dies at 10:24 p.m. on June 7th, 2021.
Almost 2 hours after the killing video?
That's correct.
All good, Sapphire. Don't worry about the typos.
Maggie's phone safe locked until when?
The following day, June 8th, around 1:10 p.m. when the investigators find it.
When the investigators find it.
That is correct.
Are you crossing T's, dotting I's? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?
I'm gonna show you a couple of exhibits. We're almost done and everybody's hungry. Say what's been marked as
Yeah, I'm
523
hungry.
to this trial, states 523. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And tell the jury just where that's from, please.
This is going to be a text message I retrieved from one of the Cellbrite extraction reports. It's me from Paul to Alex.
Your Honor, this time I'd offer states 523 into evidence.
Your Honor, we would remain the previous objections, have no additional objections. Or further. I see the exhibit.
It's a text that says, "Don't kill me, Dad! Don't kill me!" Live stream another channel or give link? Wait, what? Okay, let me clarify, just for those who are confused. When I step in for Nick, I'm going to be doing it just regular, normal, commenting, letting it run, and throwing in my commentary between questions. My question here on the poll is, I'm thinking about that, like when I'm not stepping in for Nick, if it's another trial or something like that, and I'm streaming a trial, whether you'd be interested in me pausing every once in a while to weigh in on stuff for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and then just pressing play and maybe running it like at 1 1/4 speed to try and keep pace with the regular trial, but I would not be at all times on pace with the regular trial. That's basically what I'm talking about. 3 hours in stream and you covered 1.2 hours of video. Yeah, okay, I wouldn't be commenting this much. It would just enable me to do more, but not, yeah. I started around, when did I start?
I'm going to show 5.3. This is a text from which person to which person?
So this is going to be from Paul Murdaugh, and it's going to be it says voicemail. That's going to refer to Alex. This is paying from his phone. It's going to be the owner. So that's going to be Paul to Alex.
And what's the date?
The date is going to be May 6, 2021 at 10:13 a.m.
Mom found several bags of pills
And
in
what
your
does it
computer bag.
It says, I am still in EB because when you get here, we need to talk. Mom found several bags of pills in your computer bag. This is again from Paul to Alex on May 6th.
So the new theory now is that he killed him over the pills? That they killed him because you think that he's like, oh my gosh, they're going to rat me out? What are we supposed to take from that? What the hell do they want us to take from this? This is so dumb. I thought it was to get by time. Now he's killing them to keep his private life of drug dealing secret. Because they were going to go running to the police. Oh, thank you, Saskia. Saskia.
States 553. See if you recognize this exhibit.
I do.
Tell me what that is.
This is going to be some searched items that I obtained from Maggie Murdaugh's extraction report.
Your Honor, this time I'd offer states 553, I believe, without additional objection.
No additional objections, Your Honor.
Submit it.
And tell the jury what this exhibit is, please.
So this is going to be Google searches. Far left, you're going to have a timestamp. The source, which is going to be Safari, that's for Apple. And then the value is going to be the searched item. And on May 26, 2021 at 11:21 p.m., Maggie
10
searched
days
green
earlier?
gel pill P30.
10 days earlier?
She also searched 11:20 p.m. a green,
No one of the jury is
green
married?
gel pill
Let me tell you
P30.
Let me tell you
White
something.
pill 30 on one side.
Let me tell you something. This was on going back 526 and 56. Let me. Okay. Whoa. Let me tell you something. Okay. I'm married. Been married probably around the same amount of time that this guy's been married. All right. Long time I'm married. Let me tell you this. She's looking this stuff up in her search history, the white pills and whatever, and these pills and the green pills and the page 30 and whatever, and pill 30 on one side, RP, trying to figure out what these pills are. Okay. Zero chance that this was not a discussion that they had long before June 7th. Zero. Not possible. I know the way relationships work. No chance. This is what you want to show me this? You want to show me this? Oh my gosh, look at this. Oh, she's looking at pills. Oh, she's looking at pills. Oh, she's looking up. No. Zero chance this was not something that was discussed long before June 7th. In fact, discussed, argued about, fought about, yelled at each other, maybe stormed out a week before. There's no way she would have waited 3 days, 5 days max. She might have been brooding for a couple of days. That's possible. Don't tell me that she heard May 6th she's doing a search for white pill. Just stop it. It's a month earlier. Why don't you show me something else from 15 years ago? No one, please. Stop treating us like we're idiots. Ooh, she saw the pills. Stupid. It's just stupid.
And if you look to the right, you're going to see a column that says deleted. That one is showing yes has been deleted. And then if we go down to row number 4, it's going to be May 6, 2021 from Safari, white pill 30 on one side, RP, and that's also shown deleted.
And maybe Maggie deleted it. Huh? You think about that? Because she didn't want him to know that she found it? Maybe? You think about that? Stupid.
No, I'm not.
Could you slide it down just a little bit? I just want to make sure there's not another entry. Okay.
It was not for his own personal use. There's no way. There's no one could be standing on $50,000 worth of pills a week. There's no human could be standing. So no, it's not that. It's not that. There was definitely money. There was almost certainly either money laundering or other distribution happening. This was not for personal use. Was he also using? Definitely. Definitely he was. But we have no idea how much of that he was using. It was definitely not $50,000 a week.
Show you what's been marked as page 556 and see if you recognize this exhibit.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my point, Chris. It's
So just
impossible.
generally, what is this?
This is going to be a text message thread between Alex Murdaugh and Russell Lafitte,
And at the time, where did Russell Lafitte work again, to your understanding?
Palmetto State Bank.
And Your Honor, this time I would offer stage 556, I believe, without additional objection.
No additional objections beyond the 403 and 404 objections previously withdrawn.
See the exhibit.
Just feels more personal to get him rather than state searching for truth, especially since we'll be doing life and financial crimes. Yep. All right.
No objection.
You almost done dancing around here, Creighton?
All right, I'm gonna put stage 556 up on the screen. And again, tell the people on this text and the time and what it says.
So this is going to be a text from voicemail, which is going to be Alex Murdaugh's phone, to Russell Lafitte. It was sent on June 3rd, 2021 at 3:22 p.m. This is from Alex stating, "I need to extend farm credit line another $600,000. My dad will sign also if needed. How much turnaround will that take?" And again, that's from Alex to Russell Lafitte
I don't know what
on
to
June
take from
3rd,
that.
2021.
So you need money.
Show you two final exhibits, states.
He needed money. That's why he killed his wife and kid who had no life insurance. Okay.
554 and 555. And you recognize
Right.
those?
15 years
I
of
do.
drug addiction. She knew a lot of
These are
times
found for
people.
Maggie Murdaugh's iPhone extraction.
Prescription. Yeah, especially when you're talking about
554 and 555.
painkillers.
Without objection. No objection.
Wait a minute.
States 554. Who was that?
This will be Maggie Murdaugh and her sister.
There's spitting images.
States 555. Who was that?
This is going to be Buster Murdaugh, Maggie Murdaugh, and Paul Murdaugh.
Why are we watching this? Why are we seeing this? And that's the shirt that Alex was wearing when he killed him.
Thank you, Special Agent. Please answer
He took the
questions
shirt
before
off his
speaking.
back to kill him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we break for lunch now. For an hour and 50.
All right. I'm not doing the cross now. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to do the cross tomorrow, and I may review the cross from the other trial, I'm going to review the cross that I think they did on Thursday. That's what I think I'm going to do. And I'm probably going to watch Emily Baker watching that cross and sort of see which parts I agree with and which parts I disagree with. That's what I was thinking about doing, because I was reviewing some of her work and I was like, that's interesting. It's different watching her reactions to it than what my reactions were to it. Like, I did hit much more on the fact that there's perjury than she did. So I'm gonna be like reviewing it and probably doing that. But I'm definitely gonna be watching the cross of this because I want to see how they cross this. That's our show for tonight. I am beat. It's now like in my time zone 3:11. So I'm gonna be reminding you to hit like and subscribe, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Did I catch everything? I think I caught everything. Yeah, we did. I thank you for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. Till then, make sure you take care of yourselves. And as always, Godspeed.